the depths when last we left our motley collection of vampires. The old blind servant of the Grand Masters had led Franco to this small artificial sort of wave break known as the Barrena de Bacapesi. Probably pronounced that wrong, but it's an artificial wave break. As we look at it now, the imaginary camera panning in, it's built mostly out of concrete. Waves crash against one side whilst calm prevails on the other. On the side where the waves crash against, plants and mosses have built up, providing something of a haven for seabirds, other scavengers, which disturb the otherwise peaceful night with their screeching and their cawing. As we sort of fade in, we can just see the last few sort of ripples of the water caused by Franco taking hold of a huge metal anchor and plummeting into the depths. The last few circles and disturbances of the water just disappearing, and we follow Franco as he sinks down through the, first of all, fairly well lit azure blue water that swiftly becomes darker blue and then almost black as the light cast by the waxing moon starts to fade as he plummets deeper and deeper into the water. Obviously pressure's not really an issue, nor is breathing for one of the kindred, and you plummet down for what could be minutes, could be hours. It's very difficult to tell with seemingly nothing around you to gauge the passage of time. It's almost a little bit like a sort of sensory deprivation experience, and you're just starting to wonder whether you're going to plummet downwards forever until you reach the crushing depths at the bottom of the sea, when you feel your feet bump onto a solid surface. It's dark down here, so unless you have any ability to see in the dark, since the light doesn't reach down here, all around you is in blackness. You can feel the water pressing in on you, not in a dangerous way, but you can feel it all around you. You can feel like your clothes sort of moving slightly with the ripples of the water. Obviously the need to breathe doesn't bother you at all, but this is very much a strange environment to you. It's not something you're used to. It's a little bit unnerving, and as I say, you can't see, but you can feel a firm surface below your feet through the soles of your shoes. What do you do, Franco?
So I literally can't see any light or any sort of...
No. It's just blackness all around. You can, as you sort of scuff your feet about a little though, you can sort of roughly tell by the sort of feel of the material below your feet. You think it's perhaps the same sort of concrete that this artificial wave break is made of. It's got that same sort of rough feel of sort of like industrial concrete.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna... Well, obviously I'm gonna ditch this anchor to one side, and I'm gonna follow this wall, or this concrete.
Okay, so you start
sort of feel along.
Yeah, you start to sort of tentatively sort of like stepping forward. You put your arm out. There doesn't seem to be anything in front of you, which is odd. And you're sort of like moving forward, you know, taking care and testing your footing before you put your feet down. And you move forward for, again, what seems like a few moments in the pitch black. And then suddenly a bright light in front of you illuminates your vision, almost blinding you momentarily. And as your sort of eyes adjust to the sudden glare of illumination, you see what appears to be it looks for all the world like a bedraggled, half-skeletal corpse with tatters of cloth and fabric clinging to its bones and decaying skin. Its face is almost little more than a skull-like grimace as it holds up what looks to be some sort of antique lantern in one withered claw, which sheds this bright light out. as it sort of moves towards you holding this lantern, not rushing towards you, but takes a few steps forward, it reaches out with another withered claw-like hand and beckons to you silently as the strands of its lank greasy hair and the rags that it wears waver gently in the currents of the water.
Yeah, I'll move towards it.
Okay, you move towards it. It moves back a little ahead of you, sort of turning round, holding the lantern up as though to lead you, occasionally looking back with its rictus face to ensure that you're following. And as your eyes adjust to the light, you see that you appear to be on basically a ledge of concrete, like jutting out from the main bank, this artificial bank. And ahead of you, you can see an expanse of a concrete wall, and there appears to be a very crude archway, you might call it, that's been like chiseled in to the concrete wall, and this skeletal figure seems to be leading you towards this dark, foreboding archway.
Yeah, I shall continue to cautiously follow, trying to take in all my surroundings, look out for anything that might stand out.
Okay, not a problem. You follow into this tunnel, for want of a better word, and eventually you realise that the tunnel's floor is sloping slightly upwards, and after a few moments you realise that the water level from your perspective has started to fall slightly, as though there is an air pocket of sorts, or at least a dry area in this tunnel, and eventually you emerge from the water into this sort of twisting, quite crudely chiselled passageway through this rock and concrete. As you continue moving, following this skeletal figure, you hear what sounds like up ahead a female voice as like water rushes out of your ears and sound rushes in to fill the gap. A soft female voice that appears to be sobbing or crying gently. And as you continue round a corner following this figure, you see a semi-transparent female figure dressed in what looks to be half decayed clothing of an antique style. Her skin is pockmarked with strange buboes and other such disfigurements. She takes a few steps towards you, so holding her hands up, almost in a pleading gesture towards you, and in a broken but strangely echoing voice, she says, "Please, sir, please, have you seen my children?" And as you look at it, you realise that you can actually see part of the wall through the substance of her body.
So I'd say she's a ghost of some description. Does this skeleton figure react to her in any way?
He doesn't seem to react to her. However, when he realises that you've stopped, he turns his head again, and in a rasping voice that you've heard for the first time, he says, "Pay it no mind." And he continues like moving on, holding this lantern.
Okay. I'll just take a look at her to sort of, in case I need a description in the future or something comes up that might trigger something in memories.
Absolutely fine. You continue through this corridor, and now we cut back to our other three intrepid kindred waiting in a nearby boat. Aurelio, Hugo, and Sonia, of course. Obviously, you guys have seen Franco disappear over the side of this boat, sink down into the water. The old blind man who led him there is still sat in his little boat. He just appears to be waiting. What are you guys thinking at the minute? Like I say, it's probably by now been like a good 10 minutes since Franco sort of like went overboard and sank down into the depths, and you've not seen anything since. Obviously, we're still on the same day as the previous session. It's getting a little bit late. I mean, we're talking like it's 11:30 midnight. You know, you're not sort of in immediate danger of like the sun coming up and bursting you into flames or anything. But what are you guys thinking at the minute? What's going through your minds as you wait for Franco?
So everyone's in the boat, right?
Indeed,
Or
yeah.
yeah.
Indeed, the three of you are in a second small boat that you took to follow the boat that had the blind man and Franco in it. And as you were saying just before we started recording with the recap, you guys sort of stayed at a bit of a distance so you could basically back Franco up if he got in trouble, but also so you weren't sort of interfering in what was going on, because it was pretty clear from the way the old blind man reacted, certainly to you, Aurelio, that aside from Franco, he seemed to be like quite skittish. But now you can see he's just sat in this boat. He appears to be waiting, and like I say, the surface of the water has now resumed its sort of mirror sheen. You've not seen any sign of your colleague Franco for must be about 12-13 minutes now.
As a point of order, how long do we wish to wait before we either leave or do something about this?
Oh, I think it's picking up a different mic than you intended on using. Your voice sounds very far away.
Yeah.
That better?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
better.
yes. Wonderful.
Sorry, you were saying, Sonia.
So, give him an hour. We know there's Nosferatu in the city. He's a Nosferatu.
Okay.
That's pretty much everything we need to worry about right now with him.
Shall we leave then, or
As Aurelio and Sonia are having this conversation, you're sort of staring out across the waters, just keeping a bit of an eye out while they're talking back towards Venice, and you hear faintly at the moment, but getting louder and closer, what appears to be the sound of a police siren. And as you look into the distance, you can see heading towards seemingly your location or what appeared to be two vehicles. Judging by, obviously you've been in Venice a while, judging by the speed they're moving and the spray of water they are sending up in their wake, they appear to be motorised boats, speedboats if you will, of a kind. You can see that the one appears to be pursuing the other, and the pursuer, the boat, appears to be painted in the colours of the Venetian police and has a flashing light on top of it. You can see the front boat is sort of like weaving about a little bit, and obviously like pushing the speed of this boat to its limit, and it appears to be, it's drawn a little bit away from the police boat and appears to be making a beeline for your position.
So I will draw everyone's attention to that. How far are we from this wave breaker?
You're probably about 50 feet, something like that. You were hanging back a little bit.
Should we maybe pull over onto the wave breaker and try and avoid attention?
might as well?
So we'll do that then, John. We'll pull over onto the concrete and hide.
Okay, so what I'm going to ask is, I'll ask, can one of you, and it's down to you guys who wants to make the roll, can one of you make a strength plus athletics roll? And this isn't to see whether you succeed in pulling up to the concrete thing, because you will. It's just to see like how quickly you manage to do it. Whoever rolls can get a 1 dice bonus, because presumably like, the others will be assisting.
Strength plus what? Athletics?
Yeah. Okay, 4 successes. Yeah, so you pull up onto the concrete. You can see that the old man the old blind man who again appears to move with surprising strength and quickness for an old blind man, he's basically sort of rowed his boat like round the other side of the concrete wave breaker. As you clamber up onto the concrete, as I say, a lot of it is coated in low-lying vegetation. A cloud of screeching seagulls and other seabirds ascends into the air, disturbed by your presence on their feeding ground, effectively. As you watch, you see the speedboat is definitely heading towards where you're. It's basically sort of moving. The first speedboat is moving to pull up alongside the concrete island. Are you guys trying to hide, conceal yourself? I mean, it's quite difficult because there's not like loads of trees or anything like that. But if you wish to do that, you can have a go at doing that. It will require a roll in this case. Okay, so we're probably looking at a Dex stealth roll from anyone who wants to.
We get out of here altogether. The police are following that boat. They're coming here, and we need to not be here. Otherwise, the police are going to think that we're also involved.
Okay, so hide or flee further then.
I think we just gun it and get out of here.
Obviously, you guys are in a rowboat.
Yeah, well, I can gun it. It's fine.
And in both senses of the word, I think. I mean,
Okay,
sure.
So what's
yeah.
the plan, guys? You've only got a few minutes to make your minds up.
Yeah, no, I think.
Let's row. Let's go.
Okay, keep going then.
Okay, so you're basically jumping into the rowboat, all of you again, and trying to just basically row for all your.
I'm going to row with some fortitude and some presence, mate.
not really going to help you that much. I mean, fortitude will stop you getting tired as you're rowing. Don't get me wrong.
It's fine. I've got fortitude and I've got potence. I'll be fine.
Oh yeah, potence will help you. Okay, so what I'm going to say is, can you make me? Again, it's going to be athletics and strength, but you can add your level of potence on this time. However, you will need 4 successes to outpace this boat, because it's like a motorboat going at full speed.
2.
Okay, now don't get me wrong, you put on an impressive turn of speed. I mean, if these guys were pursuing after you in like another rowing boat, they would be eating your dust, so to speak. However, you can't outpace this rowing boat. It pulls alongside. I'll say pulls alongside, it doesn't stop, but it's like keeping pace with you effectively. As you watch, you see what appear to be a number of people wearing sort of like dark clothes and jackets and boots. They're wearing sort of like black woolen hats. They pile out of the compartment on the boat. One of them waves a large gun in your direction, basically, guys. He's waving this gun towards you, and then a loud voice sort of like screams at you, "Get on the boat!" And he gestures to like the motorboat.
How many guys are on the boat?
I tell you what, roll me a d6. You go.
Five.
There are 5 men. 4 of them are sort of stood on the deck with guns. One of them is obviously like doing the driving.
Okay.
And
And are
one
they
of them's
like,
like hold like a big shotgun. He's basically like, "Get on the boat," and he's like gesturing to the deck. You can see like the others are similarly armed.
okay.
How
and
far
then-
away is the police boat?
The police boat's like a good distance behind because, like I say, they've got quite a head start on them,
Yeah.
but it is getting closer. Again,
It's nice and dark.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
there,
alright.
there is a bit
I'm
of
gonna-
light because it's a waxing moon, but it is night time.
Can we? I tell from this distance if they're human or supernatural?
Let me think, because I believe you've got an ability that lets you do that, haven't you?
Vaguely remember being able to understand someone's potency.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out which of your abilities it was. I can't remember.
I think it would be maybe animalism, sensing a beast or
Soul
something.
specs or animalism, sense the beast.
Eyes of the beast I have.
Eyes of the Beast. I can't remember what that does. Let me have a look.
All right, that just gives you glowy red eyes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's dark vision. I tell you what though, I will let you make, since you can, if you want to activate that, so you can see in the dark, which is fine. Obviously, you will need to make a rouse roll because it's not a level 1.
It is a level
Oh,
one.
it
It's
is.
free. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, in which case you can make me a wits awareness roll, just see if you can pick up on like any other signs of them, of life,
It's
breathing, etc.
Three successes.
Okay, so it's not difficult to pick out. Obviously, they're in a high stress situation. They're shouting. They've obviously been perhaps involved in some sort of athletic activity. All the ones you can see, which is all of them apart from the guy in the cabin driving, are sort of breathing quite heavily. You know, that you see their chests rising and falling quite rapidly. Again, the guy shouts, "Get on the boat or we'll shoot!" And he like,
Okay, John, I'm going to use soaring leap straight into him.
"Oh, nice, I love it." Okay, let me just check. Remind me what soaring leap does.
It allows me to leap up to 35 feet.
Yes, that is not a problem. Do you need to make a rouse roll for that, or is it a level 1?
No, it's a level 1. Yeah.
Absolutely fine. So yeah, you clearing that distance is not even a thing for you. Like, it requires virtually no effort on your behalf. You want to do this as part of an attack, is that right?
I'm just going to knock him off the boat because obviously I'm going to barrel into him and throw him over the other side. So.
Yeah, that's great. So obviously they're not expecting you to do that. So, but he's a fairly big fellow. So I'm going to say you need 3 successes on some sort of strength-based roll to knock him into the drink.
Two.
Okay, so you hit this guy and you actually knock him back like to the other side of the boat, but he manages to like grip onto the sort of bow of the boat, you know, the sort of raised bit of it. His gun does drop to the ground. However, you basically like sort of bounce off him and land on the deck, and obviously you immediately find like 2 of these people like pointing these shotguns at you.
Can I then start shooting at them?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay.
So you would need to make a dex firearms roll.
Okay. That is a single success.
Okay.
So I even hit the boat.
It's not that bad. A success is still a success. Okay, so you basically ding one of these guys. But like I say, you can tell by it sort of like hits his shoulder. You tell by the way his shoulder goes back, but he's like not dropped to the floor in pain. They're obviously wearing some sort of like reinforced gear under their like jumpers, you know, like body armor, effectively. but it does like knock his shoulder back a bit, which I'm assuming you going for one of the guys who's like pointed the guns at Sonia.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, there's now only one guy with like the gun because he's like it's knocked his aim off and he's like having to like recover himself. So obviously, this is all happening like very quickly. So
I might also jump into that boat if that's okay.
yeah, unless you're using any sort of discipline to do it, I will say you will need to make a roll. And this isn't to see whether you cover the distance. You probably will. It's just to see whether you recover and you're able to like quickly be up and ready to go, sort of thing.
Yeah. So I don't have any disciplines. So
Be a strength athletics rolling.
strength athletics. Okay.
Okay. So you leap over the gap. At the last moment, you realise that you've like misjudged the distance somewhat in the dark, and you at first think you're going to fall into the water, but you manage to like grab hold of the side of the boat, so you can like you heave yourself onto the boat. But it's probably going to take your next action to basically like pull yourself in and get yourself ready. Aurelio, what are you up to?
Just follow them. They were yelling. The guys on the boat were yelling to get on the boat anyway, and apparently we are very maliciously complying. So,
Yep,
there's one.
You leap across the gap, and you're on the boat. Okay, so for their action, the guy who still has the gun on you, Sonia, effectively steps up behind you, puts the gun like right to the side of your head, like if you were human, and he squeezes the trigger, like you will no longer have a head. He's pretty much pointing a shotgun like right in your ear. At which point he turns to the back of the boat, looking towards the rapidly onrushing police boat, and he shouts out in a loud voice. He's like, "Keep your distance, or the woman gets it."
I'm going to grab the shotgun, John, and pull it with my. Let's see. I use my lethal body.
Okay, so this is going to come down to whether you get to grab it and pull it before they go. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say what we're going to do is we're effectively both going to make a Dex Wits roll. Whoever gets the most successes goes first. So I'll roll for the guy. So I'm looking at one success. Yep, so you get to go first.
Yeah,
So-
I'll just yank the gun.
Yeah, obviously he's not expecting you to just like, so yeah, you grab the gun, like push it down, pulling it out of his hand. Okay, you go, you're like climbing to your feet and sort of pulling yourself into the boat. Aurelia.
Sorry, I might have lost track. Was there a guy who got bumped into the water?
He didn't get bumped into the water, he got bumped against the back of the boat and
Yeah.
his gun fell on the floor. He's basically sort of like trying to pick his gun up. There's the guy who got tagged in the shoulder, and he's now sort of like, he's just sort of like pulling his like whatever armor they've got on round and sort of like getting his gun back up. And then there was the one who pointed the gun at.
Yeah. So there is a gun on the deck now.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
see that the guy's basically like going towards it. But
I'm
he's
doing
like trying to recover himself.
I'm doing a tiger leap, just trying to get on on the gun. Like
Yeah.
I'm not grabbing it, I'm getting on it.
You will get to it first because you didn't get smashed into the back of the boat with like potence like he did. So yeah, you dive
I know,
over
so
the gun.
Yeah, I'm basically trying to just put my body above it, so he'll have to actually come down and wrestle me to get it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm doing turtle defense on top of the gun.
Okay, so what the guy is going to do, because obviously he doesn't know you're a vampire, what he's going to try and do is he is effectively going to try and just like aim a vicious kick at you because he's expecting, as you would do if you're a human, he'll probably kick you hard and you'll just be like, "Nah!" and then he can pick the gun up.
Yeah.
So let me just look at his dice pool. Okay. So let me just use my sample sheet. Just knock a bit on that. And obviously you have to bear with me a bit, guys. This is like the first time we've actually done any combat, really. So
Yeah. Oh boy, he's got dice. this guy got dice.
He's a hardened gangster, I'm afraid.
Oh no.
So let's see. Close combat. Winner applies their margin plus weapon damage. He's just doing a kick.
So I defend with something. I'll have to revise this as well. It's been
I was going to say let's check this before we get too further into it. Because like I say, we've not really done any actual combat in the game yet. So
okay, let me see here.
all right, if you're looking it up, I'll leave that to your PDF wizardry.
Yeah. Oh, come on. So, scenes and modes. I think this is where we... Because it's an opposed... At the end of the day, it's an opposed role type situation here where he's using his set over there. I guess what I'm just trolling for here is, like, what do I roll to resist? Like the combo for that.
Yeah, I mean, all I've got on my cheat sheet is conflicts are resolved as a single opposed roll.
Yeah. So, and like it doesn't need to be because it's a little bit loose. In V5. So, like the classic stuff would be like wits and something, but I think is the like my suggestion here is because I'm basically just being there like you'll have to kick me, and he's like okay. I'm doing like stamina and athletics.
Yeah, let's go with that. That's fine by me.
Because I'm not really. It's an endurance fight on my part.
Yes.
Oh, that's a 0.
Okay, so obviously normally you would take 3 damage. However, it's superficial damage, so it's reduced to 1. So you take 1 superficial damage since you're a vampire, and blunt force trauma don't do that much to you, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, so he delivers this vicious kick to you, and then you hear a slight sort of like grunt of surprise as like it barely scuffs you, despite the fact that it was like a heavy boot sort of aimed at your ribs. Okay, who wants to go next?
Oh, I'm Rob.
My goal is gone, recovering.
Okay, so I'll do the 2 NPCs that can reasonably act, and then we'll start again. So we've got the one guy who's kicking Aurelio, we've got the guy that Sonia's doing. There's one guy still in the driving seat, and that leaves 2 more guys. Okay, so I'm going to say they're not going to try and shoot you guys, because if they shoot you, the whole point of taking you on board the boat, i.e. leverage so the police don't grab us, is gone, because then they'll be like, oh, we're murderers, come and arrest us, please. We're no longer robbers or whatever. So what I'm going to say they're going to do is one of them is going to step up and try and sort of like knock you out with the butt of the gun, Sonia. It's not going to work, because you don't get knocked out by shit like that, but they don't know this. So I'm going to make a melee roll for them. And how do you want to defend against it? Are you dodging? Are you just like taking it?
I'm just going to take it with toughness, John.
Okay.
Because it doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay. So as we said previously, we're looking at a sort of stamina athletics here. Obviously, if you've got anything you can add on to that in addition, feel free to shout up. Because obviously I've not memorised all of your guys' abilities. Okay, so while there we go. Jeez. Okay, yeah. So this guy's coming over. He's basically trying to do the whole and whap you around the side of the face with the butt of the shotgun. You have easily beaten their score. So that bit of the combat turns in your favour. How does your defence go? What do you do?
I've got a shotgun.
Yep.
And I've just been clipped round the back of the head. I'm going to turn around with the shotgun and just point it straight at his face and say, "You had better fucking stop."
Okay, not a problem. So yeah, you sort of turn away from the blow to the side of your head, so it only just catches you glancing. It doesn't really do any damage. Then you literally spin round and one-handed point the shotgun directly at his face and say, "You better fucking stop this." While that's occurring, the other one is pretty much trying to do the same thing. I'm going to roll a d6. If we get a 1 to 3, he's going to try and whap Aurelia around the bonce. If it's a 4+, it's going to be Hugo. Okay, so he's going for Hugo. Okay, he gets 3 successes. How are you planning on defending against this, Hugo?
So what I think I want to do is kind of dance out of the way and try and give him a push into the water as he goes past.
Okay, I would say you could do either probably a dex athletics or maybe a strength brawl for that, depending on which point you're focusing on. Because obviously dex more for the sort of dodging out of the way and dancing out of the way, strength more for the pushing off the side of the boat.
Yeah, I think the dancing is more what I'm interested in, so I'll do dex plus athletics.
Yep.
So 3.
Okay, so that's a tie. So I'm going to say basically what happens with this is as he swings, sort of tries to swing the butt of this shotgun towards your head, you try and sort of dodge out of the way. You realise last minute you're not going to get out of the way in time, so you basically sort of grab hold of the end of the gun, and now you and this guy are sort of tussling backwards and forwards because he's not damaged you, but you've also not managed to get out of the way. So you're sort of I suppose grappling, if you want to put it that way.
Cool.
Backwards and forwards. Okay, by now the police boat is starting to get quite close, and you hear over a loud hailer, you hear a female voice saying, "Put the guns down and release the hostages, and we'll go easy on you. There's no need to make this worse on yourselves." And already the voice is distorted by the loud hailer, but the female voice sounds a little bit familiar. Is that that woman policeman that woman detective we spoke to when we were originally investigating the strange rumours about the priest and the bridge? The one you sort of sold the sob story that Franco was his nephew to get the official report. And as the boat continues to get closer, you can indeed see that sort of standing on the prow of the police speedboat is none other than Detective Rosina Sparda, wearing basically sort of a police uniform, but sort of like the more military style of police uniform. And stood next to her is a middle-aged man, similarly attired, slightly greying hair and moustache. They're both holding pistols. They're sort of stood on the edge of the boat. You can see Rosina Sparda is holding a loud hailer with one hand up to her mouth. Okay, what do you guys want to do now?
Is the guy still driving our boat, or is our boat come to a stop?
He is still driving, yeah, although he appears to have sort of slowed down a bit because he's sort of like looking around to like see what's going on the back of the boat. Basically, is all this like fist fightery and like people getting thrown against the side of the boat and stuff like that is going on. So he's slowed down a bit, but you can hear the engines like revving up again as he's basically pressing the accelerator pedal down as the sort of slight slowness he's got into has allowed the police cruiser to catch up a bit, and he's now basically getting ready to gun it again. And also the police continue to shout out the loud halo, encouraging these villains to give themselves up. What do you guys want to do?
I would like to try and I guess I want to show the guy that I'm wrestling with my fangs and try and shock him and then knock him into the water.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to say it's going to be a strength brawl to knock him into the water. However, I'm going to give you a bonus dice due to like, so when you like, it is going to be like, sort of stumble away from you because he's not expecting that.
Cool. Okay. So sorry, strength brawl.
Strength brawl, or you could use athletics if you wish.
Okay, I'll do strength athletics +1. Is that the modifier?
Yeah.
Just put in 1. Okay. 2.
Okay, yeah. So as this guy stumbles backwards trying to get away from this vampiric vision in front of him, you follow up, pushing your weight into him. He topples over to the side, lets out a scream as he like falls into the water, and then you see like thrashing and foam being thrown up as he's obviously like trying to struggle out of whatever body armor he's wearing as he starts to sink in the water.
Okay. Hopefully that will slow the police down.
Okay. Aurelio and Sonia, what do?
I'm still staring down the barrel of this gun to this bloke, so it's up to him, really.
Right. So what's the guy who I guess went to Hugo after kicking me once? What's he up to?
Okay, he now appears to be like heading towards the. I want to use the word cockpit, but you know what I mean. He's heading towards the driver.
Steer. Yeah. Is it like a sort of cabin type situation?
No,
like
it's one of those where it has like a slight sort of raise, and then you literally it's like an open front
and then there's
steering wheel.
Yeah. Okay. So he's going there with the guy who's already there steering the vehicle. Quickly whip the the pistol into the water.
Yeah.
And
so that basically leaves like the guy who tried to like. There's basically two guys now who aren't sort of heading for the driving seat are already in there.
Yeah, I guess I'll just like I'll turn to look at the tents, stare down, and I'll sort of warble at Sonia. It's like, what do I do now?
You stay there.
How does that help?
Because then you're not over there.
As you're saying that, one of the two remaining guys basically tries to like almost rugby tackle sort of Aurelio from the side, just trying to like grab hold of him because like, he doesn't know what's going on. But he's just like, this guy's in front of me, like I'm going for him.
Okay, so we're gonna do a bit of wrestling.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so oh boy. Oh well, you know.
I'm not going to lie. Even this hardened criminal has been somewhat thrown off his game by what they expected to be. Oh, there's just some people there in a boat. We'll just take them as easy hostages. This will be a nice, easy way of like getting us ahead. And then it turned into like Kung Fu Mania on the boat.
Yeah,
it
didn't go the way.
Yeah, nothing has happened the way they expected it. And now there's some like there's some like supermodel-esque like looking woman who's basically turned into Rambo on the back of his boat. And he doesn't know what's going on, but he's like, oh, if I can just get one of these guys, maybe I can still get myself out of it. And he's just almost in desperation. He's like, oh, you seem to be the one guy who's not like actually like kung fu hustling everybody on the boat. So he's like, oh, if I can grab this guy, maybe I can still get out of it somehow.
Okay, so he's trying to grab me, and I'm trying to, well, including like having him stop that. I'm gonna just like, because he's getting like very close. He's kind of surprising Aurelio, so the sort of like knee-jerk reaction is to just like headbutt the guy in the face as like hard as I can. Let's see how that goes. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to say he grabs hold of you. He's still got hold of you, but you do like catch him like a glancing blow that sort of dazes him a little bit.
Oh, John, does skin break?
Yeah. I say let's put it like a thin like drizzle of blood.
Yeah. So I smash him in the face, and then it's sort of like, oh, hello. And
I like to think as we do like the cinematic shots, this sort of head snaps, but you've got to get that bit where you see the vein in the neck. Like,
yeah, that, and it's up to you if you decide to bring this into this at all. It's a penalty for like initiated by me social stuff. But Aurelio is an obvious predator as a flaw. So as like smash him in the face, and then it's like, oh, hello. Then it goes creepy immediately.
Okay, so what's going to happen now is almost simultaneously, the guy that's got the gun pointed at him by Sonia, and the guy that's now facing like the obvious predator was just like probably like smash part of his nose off with his forehead. They're both effectively going to try and make a break for the side of the boat and like jump over the boat, because they're like, oh, do you know what? We don't know what's going on in here. We'll take our chances in the water.
Yep.
So they're both breaking for the side of the boat. Obviously, Aurelio, Sonia, it's up to you how you choose to respond to that, because they are literally just like, this guy's just like trying to push you away, Aurelio, like, fuck this, and trying to like dive over the side. The one you're sort of like, oh yeah, let's fucking stop this, Sonia. He's literally like stood next to the side of the boat, and he's just going to try and like heave himself over the side.
I'm going to grab him by the head and shove it straight into the deck.
Yeah. Since effectively these guys are out of the combat, I'm not going to make it roll for this, just for the purposes of simplicity. Are you trying to? What's the? Are you trying to kill him?
I'm going to daze him. He's a criminal.
Yeah.
I'm going to knock him out, and I'm going to find out who he's working for.
Okay.
And then we're going to have a discussion about who they kidnapped.
Okay, yeah, so as he tries to leap over the side, you basically grab him, haul him back onto the deck, and smash his head into the deck. He sort of judders a little bit, and then he lies still for a few moments, but you can see he's still breathing.
And then I'm going to go and deal with the bloke at the cab who's driving.
Okay. Aurelio, how are you dealing with the guy who's trying to get away from you?
He's going in the drink, is he?
Yeah, he's trying to push you away and then like jump over the side, basically, because he's like, I don't know what's going on here, but I want away from it.
I'm gonna boost him, so I'll reverse the situation. As he goes, I'll go after him and I'll tackle him into the water.
Are you going with him, or
I'm going down with him?
Yep, does not require a roll. He's like, oh, I've got away from this like crazy fool. I'm gonna go out, and just as he's like jumping over, you literally like almost like jump on his back. Your weight bears him over the side, and he sort of falls into the water. You go with him. There's a loud splash. Water gets thrown up into the air, and the two of you start sinking down under the water. Okay, you go. There's the guy who's still sort of like wrestling with you, I suppose. Oh, wait, what did you do with that guy? I can't remember.
Oh, he went into the water.
That's right, yes, he went into the water. So we've now got basically the guys in the driving seat. You are free to do as you will at the minute. You can see basically the guy who was on the deck has now like run to the driver. You can't hear what he's saying, but you can see he's like gesturing, and he's probably being like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, man. That's some crazy shit.
As he's shouting then, John, I'm going to put the gun next to his head and pull the hammer back. I'm not going to fire at it.
Okay, so Hugo, you can see Sonia heading across to do that. What are you doing, Hugo?
I'm going to head across with my pistol as well.
Okay, so the way the scene goes down is this, because the driver's got a pistol, but he's not holding it at the minute because he's driving. The other guy lost his weapon on the deck, so he isn't really armed. As he's like, oh, we need to get the hell out of it, they turn round to find basically you and Sonia, Hugo, stood like side by side. Sonia holding a shotgun and you with a pistol like pointed dead at them. And then in an almost farcical way, the two of them are like,
You better get to where you're going.
For a few moments, he looks like he's like not sure that he's like heard things right, because he's like, obviously they'd sort of assumed that you guys were going to like hand them over to the police, and then you're like, oh, you best like get away from the police, and he's like,
Circle round for the old man.
old man. So
Just fucking do as I say.
He sort of shrugs, and then he grabs hold of the wheel and he starts like. Now, when you say old man, are you talking about Aurelio?
Yeah, I want to make sure he's definitely sank, so I know he's safe down there.
Yeah. So the boat goes in like a wide circle. Obviously now the police boat in hot pursuit, and circles around. Aurelio, are you basically carrying on like down with this guy under the water?
Yeah. The intention is like grab into him and just like go down.
Yeah, no problem. So you circle around, and you can just about make out as you look over the side like a vague shape, like quite deep down. So obviously, there's two people's body weight, and this guy's wearing body armor, so they've sank quite quickly. But yeah, you can see they're still sinking.
So I'll tell him to get going then.
He doesn't take much encouragement. He puts his foot down. The boat screams off into the night, sending up a spray of water. The police cruiser cranes off in pursuit, sort of taking an arc round and following them. Okay, so for the moment we are going to return to the strange underwater lair with Franco, and as you continue through this concrete tunnel, you eventually start noticing what appear to be bones and skulls that seem to be set into the walls, although in the flickering light of the lantern of your corpse-like guide, as you look at them you realise actually like a second, more recent layer of like cement has been put onto the walls, and like the bones and skulls have been sort of pressed into that rather than being like put into the original sort of concrete of the walls. You're led through a number of passages that have other passages branching off from them, and as you continue into what must be like deeper into this concrete sort of embankment, you start seeing more and more skulls and bones more closer together until eventually it resembles a veritable necropolis, where the walls almost seem to be as much bone as they are concrete and cement. Eventually it opens up into a large lit chamber. The skeletal figure leads you into this chamber, again lined with skulls and bones, and says, "Wait here," and like puts the lantern down on the floor just to the left of you, then disappears down one of these side tunnels. Maybe a few minutes later you hear footsteps, and a male, I won't say human, but a male figure enters the room. He has the pallid, white, wormy flesh of a corpse that has been long submerged in water, and slick, almost blue-green hair. Eyes are deeply sunken into their sockets. He has a mouth that appears to almost bisect his face, and two large, I suppose you might call them spurs or sort of horns that look to be like cartilage, one emerging from each side of his neck. He is followed by another figure that appears to be a younger looking man, again with the pale flesh of a corpse long submerged under salt water, but with a wild mop of frizzy, dark brown hair and an almost permanent scowl on his stretched and sunken face. The first figure, the one with the large cartilaginous growths from the sides of his neck, walks in and sits down on a small mound of these skulls, the other standing behind him. And as he speaks again, like I say, his mouth appears to be almost twice as wide as a normal human mouth, and inside you see jagged and sharp teeth. He gestures to another pile of these skulls, and in a sort of slightly doddery sounding voice says, "Please, brother, sit, rest yourself." And he gestures at one of these piles of skulls.
I'll take a seat.
He leans forward and then says, "I am pleased to see that our servants have managed to rescue another one of our brothers from the clutches of those devilish Giovanni."
I must admit, I didn't feel in any danger.
The most dangerous dangers are those that entrap us without our knowledge. And he sort of chuckles slightly to himself. At which point the second figure, the younger of the two with the frizzy hair, leans forward and he says, "Grandmaster, how can we be sure this isn't one of the necromancer's tricks? For all we know, this person could be one of their agents." Which when he says, "Be still, Durante, be still. Whilst I appreciate your drive to protect our little community and our family down here, if we start turning on each other, we will have done those devils work for them." And then he turns back to you and says, "So, brother, what news of the world above?"
How long have you been down here?
Oh, since the devil kindred began to turn against their own, and we who were friends with the Cappadocians, long gone, we who were their friends and allies, we were also hunted. Once the children of Nosferatu were almost second only to the great Cappadocian clan in the Venetian Republic. But once they had dealt with those who they should have called a brother, they turned their anger and their fire on those who had been their allies. Many of us died, many of us, and those of us who survived only survived by sinking into the cold embrace of the waters and letting them forget that we had ever existed. And here we have remained ever since, save those of the old families above who still remember and still help us.
Well, I've had no problem since I've arrived here. There's a gathering soon. It seems they're trying to get together many of the what's the group called?
Carter.
MacArthur. But I've been invited.
He looks at you and he says, "Hecata, I'm not familiar with this term. Of course, we know of the devilish Giovanni and their murdered forebears, the much honoured clan of death, the Cappadocians. But this Hecata you speak of, I am not familiar with this term."
My understanding is they're joining forces, many of them.
joining. I'm sorry. Forgive me. It is rare we meet someone from the world above. Joining forces with whom? I do not understand.
The two groups, the two families.
This Hikata and some other family are joining forces. Forgive me. I do not quite take your meaning.
Well, that's my understanding. That is right, isn't it?
Well, the Hikata, or the clan of death, they're made up of the Giovanni, the remnants of the Cappadocians, and all the various other sort of offshoots of the Cappadocians who've now sort of called a ceasefire, effectively, and they sort of formed this loose alliance, which is known as the Hikata.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give him the names of the families because I forget them all the time. But yeah, they seem to be tolerating each other, if not working together, making a
At which
stronger
point,
force.
this strange sort of bony growthed figure with this huge maw says, almost he's almost thinking to himself rather than directly addressing you. He says, could it be after all these years have the Cappadocians re-emerged, but to make peace with those who slaughtered their forebears? It seems almost too incredible to believe. At which point the younger figure who's stood at his shoulder leans forward and he says, Patrizio, if it is true what this upworlder says, that the Giovanni are all gathering in one place, this would be an excellent opportunity. We must strike at them now. Now may be the time that we can achieve our revenge for all those we lost, for all those who died when they purged us and they chased us through the streets with fire and devilish spirits at their command. We could take revenge for all these years we have had to languish below the cold of the waters, away from humanity and subsisting on the scraps of people who fall into the canals and drunk tourists who we can easily take without suspicion. Once they're destroyed, imagine it, Patrizio, we could once more walk the streets of Venice. We could feel the air on our face and see the moonlight. At which point, again, the older figure holds up his hand and he says, Peace, Durante, peace. I pray you. I know you have suffered much, as we all did, during the purges, and I know you think me an old fool who is unsuited for this modern world, but remember, it is I who am the Grand Master here, and I speak for our clan and our family here. I do not endorse your desire for war against the old. I have seen what war between the clans causes, and I have no wish to see it again in my long lifetime, no matter how justified it may be. Durante, the younger of the two, looks as though he's about to say something, and then he thinks better of it and falls silent, standing there with his arms folded and this scowl now etched more deeply into his face, like it was carved into stone. While this bizarre interplay of this conversation's going on, what are you up to, Franco?
I mean, there's only the two of them, yeah? There's no others.
There seems to be. There's no one else in the chamber. But obviously you know that there's at least one more, because the person who led you here isn't here. And they've talked about a family, so you can assume there's probably a few more.
Yeah, I mean, did I see where they come from?
Yeah, they walked out of one of these like many side tunnels that comes off this chamber.
So it's quite a vast network down here.
Yeah, it seems as basically though they've sort of dug, like, for want of a better term, like a warren out inside this this large concrete embankment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just. I'm obviously listening to what they say.
Yeah, the conversation continues a bit more, and it basically seems like the younger of the two, the one identified as Durante, he seems to basically be like, oh look, we were hunted down here, and we had to take refuge down here under the water, like feasting on the scraps of Venice, and we've been down here for all these years. Like we're now told that like, oh, the Giovanni have apparently made friends with the people they were like murdering, like as far as I can, a few years ago. And he's like, oh, that's a likely story, but if they are getting together and we want to strike, that's the time to do it. You know, get them all in a wanna. Whereas Patrizio, the older of the two, seems, although he's like, yeah, revenge on the Giovanni for what they did to us would be great. However, I'm not that desirous to like throw our family into another war with kindred we don't know about because so much time's passed. And he's like, we nearly got wiped out last time, and there were a lot more of us then. So he really seems like, oh, I can see what you're saying, Durante, but like, one, I'm not sure we'd win, and two, like they'd have like the home ground advantage, whereas we stay below. We don't really know what's going on in the city above. So there's this back and forth going on with the younger advocating for like, it's time for war and vengeance, and the older one going, oh, we need to be a bit more cautious and like find out what's going on before we make any decisions.
Do I get any impression of how many there are of them in this family?
I tell you
clan,
what,
whatever they're calling themselves.
Make me a wits insight roll, just to see if you manage to pick up sort of some rough idea from their conversation as it goes on. Obviously, I've abbreviated their conversation.
Insight.
Okay, so as Patrizio, the elder, is talking, you get, and when I say elder, I mean he looks older. I don't mean elder as in terms of he's an elder vampire, like as in his generation. I just mean he looks older, and he seems to be the senior member here. As the older Patrizio talks, from his side, you get the feeling he's talking about maybe 8, 10 vampires. However, you can't help but notice that when those sort of numbers are brought up, Durante seems to have this like slight sort of like smirk on his face, as though he's like he perhaps knows something that Patrizio doesn't. But he's like not letting it on, and he covers it up quite well. Patrizio doesn't really seem to pick up on it, but you just like pick up on like he seems to be quite like, yes, you're an old man, we've got to declare war. But when the old man's like, oh, there's 10 of us and whatever, he's like, oh, and he's got like a bit of a smirk on his face.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one of you should travel up and see for yourselves, see what's happening in the city. Judge for yourself. But I would advise against starting a war that you can't win. The numbers you talk of, especially.
At which point Durante sort of like scoffs and he says, I've spoken like a true lapdog of the devil, kindred. At which point again Patrizio is like, Durante, please. This is our brother, and more importantly our guest. I will not have you insult this brother of ours. He may be an upworlder, but he has come here in good faith. He has shown no violence towards us, and he has told us a great deal. At which point again Durante sort of behaves like a sort of young kid who's been like scolded. He's like and sort of sulking a little bit. Patrizio says, might I ask your name, brother? Forgive my rudeness, it quite slipped my mind. We spend so much time under the embrace of the cold waters here that often we do not use speech for many nights. We have a simple language of gestures that we use between ourselves, so names are often slip our minds. What might I call you, brother?
Franco Lombardo.
Franco. Well, Franco, I believe your suggestion has merit. However, I feel that one of our family, and he sort of gestures round at the chamber, would not be welcome at a gathering of these Hakata that you speak of. And there are those of us, and at which point you see him, like, obviously intended for your eyes, he like gestures with his eyes towards Durant. He says, there are still those of us who the bitterness and hatred for them runs deeper than the great canals of the Venetian Republic.
And is there not somewhere else you can go to where you'll be safe?
Perhaps there is, but, and he gestures to himself, he says, many of us have been affected by the long years that we have spent underwater. It is very, even if we wished it, it is very difficult now for us to walk the streets openly. There are, of course, those of us who can veil ourselves from the sight of others, but doing so is not without its cost, and we are loath to make such flagrant use of our abilities lest it prompt us into incaution, shall we say. We have forgive me if I seem timid, Brother Franco, but we have only survived so long by being extremely cautious. It is difficult to let go of such a habit.
Understand. I feel I have similar urges myself at some point. Is there anything else I can do for you? Maybe find you a more secluded building in the city?
I believe we're fine where we are for the moment, but I would ask if it is possible for you to secure, I suppose, an invitation to this gathering for a representative of our number. I would be willing to send one of our number along to represent us, but I would not send them without first knowing that we have a promise of no hostility from the hosts. From what you say, a great deal has changed with the Cappadocians and the Giovanni, but I would not willingly send one of my family into the lion's den, so to speak, without first knowing that we have at least the minimal security of an invitation, or better still, a letter of safe conduct from the hosts of this meeting.
Well, I've been issued a promise of safety, but
can you secure such a promise to one of our number, Brother Franco?
Well, I believe anyone that is escorted by a number of my group would be safe. So
your group, you have a coterie, yes?
Yes, I live in a building above the water with other fellow vampires.
Might it be, if what you say is true and it is possible for our representative to be protected by the auspices of the person who is escorting you there, might it be possible that you bring said person here so that I might meet them in person before entrusting a member of my family into their care?
Well, I will certainly put that to them. And
Thank you.
Yes, let me try and convince them to come and speak to you.
Thank you. That is much appreciated, brother. Is there anything else you would have of us?
No, I think I will try and secure such a meeting and visit you once again. And then if there's anything else, we can discuss it at that point.
Of course.
What best way would I travel to the surface?
If you head out via the way you came in, we can show you, if you wish. When you get to the outside, on the platform, if you look at the wall of the barrier to the left as you face the arch, you will see that over a period of many years, my family have carved a series of handholds into the concrete that stop just below the surface of the water. You should be able to use them to climb the side of the barrier and pull yourself up onto the top, and from there make your way whithersoever you may go.
Okay, with that I shall bid you farewell.
Do
until
well,
we
brother.
meet next time. And yeah, I'll turn. And has the other guy already sort of gone off?
He's still stood there, at which point Patricio says, Durante, show our guest back through the way of the tunnels to the platform. Durante nods and he walks towards you, and then he gestures for you to follow him. And he starts leading you back through this sort of labyrinthine, twisted warren of tunnels. As he's probably about 5-10 foot ahead of you, but sort of staying within range. Obviously, you've still got the lantern, although he doesn't really seem to need it. As he's walking along, he sort of says in a quiet voice, he says, of course, Patricio means well, but he's old. The fire of unlife has dwindled in him like a candle flame plunged into cold water. There were many years ago, he would have been calling for conflict with the devil kindred, even as I do now. But he is correct. He is the Grand Master, and I am only his second. But then Patricio will not be around forever. We may be ageless, but we are not. None of us truly immortal. And obviously, he's like continuing at this slow sort of walking pace as he's saying this. His voice sort of echoing back to you.
I will say to him that they have vast numbers. However sweet your revenge may be, do you want to lay down many more lives for your cause?
Tell me then, brother, how many conflicts for a worthy aim throughout the long history of this world have ever been without casualties on both sides of the conflict? But if the cause is just and the goal worthy, unfortunately sometimes sacrifices have to be made.
That's your decision to make, I guess.
Well, all I'm saying is that if you were perhaps able to get us some information on this gathering of strategic importance, I'm sure we could see to rewarding you handsomely, especially if we were able to take our true place as the rulers of the night of this city. After all, besides the Cappadocians, who has greater claims to it than the children of Nosferatu, we were the strongest allies of the once masters of the Venetian Republic. We were their strong right arm, their spy masters. We were their confidants, and we fell, many of us, defending them from their enemies. And if they are not around, who else has a greater claim to ruling the Knights of Venice than us? And you could be there with us, brother. After all, we are of the same blood. Once we had purged Venice of this stain of sorcery that has been daubed on it like so much shit spread about on the street, once we had purged them and their blood had run thin into the waters, Venice would be ours to rule. Just something for you to bear in mind, brother. As I say, if you were to bring us information that enabled our rightful resumption of power here, of course you would be compensated extremely handsomely. Unlike some members of our family, I do not forget those who have helped me in times of need, as I do not forget those who have wronged me. But something for you to think about. Here we are. Here is the ledge. And he sort of leads you out onto this concrete ledge, and he indicates one side of the tunnel mouth. And now with the light of the lantern, you can see that there are these sort of like crude like hand holes that have obviously been like carved in, sort of chiseled in, heading up. And he says if you climb these, you will find yourself a short distance under the water, and you should be able to make your way up onto the top of the mound.
Yep. Yeah, I should start to make my climb up.
You start climbing up, and as you climb up, you hear his voice. And at this point in time, you realise obviously you've headed back down underwater, and you realise for the first time, like, how has he been speaking to you? Because you've like both been underwater, like, and you're like, how have I even actually been hearing him? But then as you climb up, he calls after you, and you literally hear his voice as though he's like right next to you, as though he's like sort of speaking into your ear, and you're like, oh, it must be some sort of strange like vampiric ability he's using to communicate with you rather than speech. And you hear his voice saying, think on what I have said, brother. Think of what we could build together. And then the voice just like, it doesn't like fade away like you're getting further away, it just like cuts off, and you climb up. Okay, so we're going to cut back to the speedboat chase. Okay, so you guys, the rest of you, are now in this speedboat. It's well, apart from Aurelio, who's sinking down in the water. And in fact, before we jump back fully to the speedboat, I'm going to say, Franco, can you make me a wits awareness roll? Okay. As you're sort of climbing up, and you're still under the water, you're climbing up, you're sort of looking around, and you see like a dark shape that, like, not too far away from you, that appears to be like sinking down through the water. And as it goes past you, because you're a bit nearer the surface now, so as it's drawing level with you, you can see it's actually like Aurelio and some guy wearing like basically like black combat fatigues and body armor. This guy's like trying to like struggle to get out of his body armor while like, Aurelio's like grabbed hold of him, and they're both just like sinking down through the water. Aurelio, what are you doing to said fellow as you sink down through the water? I'm assuming like biting him.
Yeah, and he's going to freak the fuck out.
Well, he's drowning.
Yeah, both because of that and because of my bite as well. Because I've got the Hikata trouble with that.
Okay, so I'm not going to say you have to make any sort of grapple roll. He's already grappled. So, how much are you looking to feed from this guy?
We're going to empty the bank.
Oh,
on this guy.
So we're really going for that, like,
Yep.
give me all that blood.
Yep.
Okay, no problems. So let me see if I can find the trait. Okay, so a human drained and killed, that reduces your hunger to 0. It's the only way to do so in the game. However, you have just killed somebody, which I can't remember how many stains it gives you.
It's not set in stone because it sort of derives from always from the sort of either my personal convictions and well, not tenets. Tenets is what it's called.
Yeah, yeah.
So the Chronicle tenets, which is sort of like the assumption would be that killing people would be one of those.
Yeah. Do you know, for this, I'm only going to give you 1 stain. Because it wasn't just a case of you like walking through the streets and you were like, I fancy that fool there, and grabbed him and killed him. It was like literally like a hardened criminal who tried to like beat you up and shoot you, and was obviously intent on doing harm. And you sort of like took the opportunity. You didn't really set out to do it. You was like, oh, you know, when in Rome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
so you-
opportunity makes a thief.
Yeah.
Out of me.
So
Which, by the way, we still need to roll for the previous session's stains as well. But I've
Yeah.
marked down both the previous one and this one's, and we'll
That's cool.
deal with that afterwards. But yeah, so yeah, Aurelio just like is hanging on to as well as he can while he's trying to take off his armor, I guess, and he's just going to get a horrific pain, I suppose, from like his leg or his arm, because
Yeah.
that's where Aurelio could reach, and then just like gnawing through it.
yeah, so as this struggling mass sinks back, like draws level with you, Franco, you know, so like I said, this guy who's, you see like bubbles coming out of his mouth. He's obviously like drowning, like the bubbles are slowing down as he can't get a breath. He's struggled to take off his armor, getting weaker. You can also see that like his face is locked in this like pained scream, and you can see like, Aurelia like clamped onto one of his arms, a few little rivulets of blood drifting out and mingling with the water as this guy's like, but getting like slower and slower, obviously, as his breath's running out. He's starting to get drowsy as he's slowly like drowning, and even like the pain of the Hikata bite can't really, it's keeping him going for a bit longer because of the adrenaline, but he is succumbing to the effects of the water because unfortunately, unlike yourselves, he needs that sweet O2. So yeah, so you see this strange bloody tableau sort of like drawing level with you as it's like sinking past you. It's coming down as you're sort of heading up. What do you do, Franco?
I'm going to follow him down because it might be an opportunity to invite him in to speak to this elder. So I'm
Okay.
gonna follow him down.
So are you like climbing back down the handholds? Are you jumping and like grabbing
as they
onto them?
sink in. Oh no, I'll leave him to sort of like feed or whatever, and just I
Okay.
won't interfere in that situation. I'll just
So-
follow him down.
As you sink down, eventually the man stops moving. You continue draining his blood as you sink. He's not managed to get his armor off. As you continue to sink, Aurelio, you feel for the first time you can remember in a long while, like your hunger completely is assuaged as you drain like the very last drop of vitality out of the collapsing waterlogged veins of this unfortunate gangster. And as you sort of come back to yourself from the sort of the ecstasy of feeding, I suppose, you sort of like look around, and obviously you're still sort of holding on to this guy, so you're still sinking. But as you look over to your right, you can see like the wall of this like concrete embankment, and then you can see like Franco sort of like watching you, like climbing down the side of this embankment underwater. What do you do?
Presuming I get to the bottom, first order of business would be to find a rock large enough to put on this guy that he's just not gonna move.
Okay, as you look down, you see you appear to be heading towards a large sort of like outcropping from this concrete embankment.
Mm-hmm.
And then like below that, obviously you can see like the water continues down.
Yeah, well, down we go.
Okay, so you've reached the ledge. You're now stood on the ledge, Franco, that you left previously. You see Aurelio and this guy sort of like sinking down into the darkness of the water below it. It starts getting dark, Aurelio, because you're now no longer in the light cast by like the lantern that Franco's got. And you keep going down.
Yeah. Anything I can. Well, basically, Aurelia's looking to stash the body, and that's what we're looking for.
Okay. Eventually, what seems almost like an eternity later, you hit the bottom. And looking around, you can see there's like large rocks, sort of like bits of masonry. This area was once quite industrial, so there's like bits of industrial waste, old machinery, stuff like that. Most of it very overgrown. There's the sort of fronds of plants that you would expect to see underwater, although they're quite small here because not enough light gets down. But yeah, there's like lots of rubble and detritus around on the bottom, and you can feel the sort of more pressure from the water here. It's not like it's causing you to explode or anything, but you can feel it.
Maybe let's look for like some machinery or like a building detritus, and get the body lodged in a little bit, and then because he's got, the way I understood his description is he's kind of got like tactical gear stuff going on a little bit, so maybe like get some straps that he might have, and just lock the straps in so that his clothes will keep him tied to whatever piece I find.
You have a quick look around, and eventually you find like an old sort of concrete pipe that's got bits of like rubble like collapsed on top of it, and you pretty much sort of like shove him into the pipe, and you know, like push a bit of like the debris and after him to like pack him into this pipe. You're pretty sure like he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Back up.
Okay, so Franco, as you're sort of stood on the ledge outside this labyrinthine network of Nosferatu tunnels, you eventually see Aurelio like quite slowly sort of like swimming his way back up. Obviously it's a little bit more difficult for you guys because you don't have like the natural buoyancy of a human, because you don't have like air in your lungs and stuff like that, but you can still swim. You don't just like sink instantly. But yeah, you have to put a bit more work into it. It seems like Aurelio slowly sort of like swimming his way back up.
Yeah, I shall gesture him towards me in the torchlight.
Yeah, I'll float that away.
Okay, and eventually you're both stood on the platform. So now we are going to cut back to the speedboat posse. So we've got Hugo and Sonia on this speedboat. These two terrified gangsters are like flooring the speedboat. The police boat is in hot pursuit. They're still sort of like calling through the loud hailer. You can hear this female DI still like calling, saying like, "Oh, it's not too late. You don't need to be charged with murder. Release the hostages." They're obviously assuming that you're hostages, and they're like shouting for them to like give themselves up and release the hostages as they're following.
And have they stopped to pick up any of the guys who went into the water?
No, you two are pointing guns at them. Sonia was like, "You need to get out of here," and they're not arguing because you guys are pointing guns at them.
Sorry, has the police boat stopped to?
The police boat doesn't appear to have done. No, they appear to be mainly following the boat that you're in. So, obviously, we're sort of around about here now. Where were you guys? Obviously, you guys are effectively in control of the boat. Where do you guys want to take it?
I'm gonna go.
So over to here.
Yeah. And then that should give us enough time to have a very quick conversation so me and Hugo can just jump out the boat and make it look like we've escaped these crooks.
Okay, so you take the boat to where I've drawn the red circle.
Yeah.
The gangsters are still just flooring it. Obviously, during the time it's moving, Hugo, Sonia, you've got time to like converse. So feel free to talk about what you want to.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask them point blank. Who are you working for?
He's like, oh, look, it wasn't supposed to go like this. The robbery went wrong. It wasn't supposed to happen like this.
And you work for?
He says, oh, me, I work for Capresi, Arnold Capresi.
Well, tell him Sonia says hi. And I look forward to having a conversation with him later about this.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'm going to motion to Ugo to get off this boat.
Is there any obvious loot?
Well, there's probably a couple of sets of body armor, maybe a couple of shotguns.
Okay, so I'll grab up a bag and throw in the whatever shotguns and
Yeah, so you
body armor.
two sets of body armor and 2 shotguns. Yeah, and then are the 2 of you both diving over the side of the boat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys dive over the boat, and as you're swimming back into Venice proper, you obviously it's getting like really, really late now because we were on sort of like near midnight when we started. But you guys sort of look back as you're sort of pulling yourself out of the water, and you see the police boat has now sort of like pulled alongside these 2 guys, and they appear to be like surrendering to the police, and they're being like taken back onto the boat. As they're taken back to the boat, one of the police sort of gets onto the criminal's boat, and then the police boat turns around and starts heading back the way it came, presumably to like pick up the ones who went into the water. You don't know. And you guys are light on good Venetian soil in the
Start making our way back to the haven, I think.
Yeah, not a problem. You start making your way back to the haven. Okay, so we jump to the underwater posse again. You both are stood underwater on this ledge. Obviously, Franco's like gestured you over, Aurelio. What do you do?
Yeah, so we're on the platform. You have a light source. Are you
Can't really talk
leading us
until
somewhere?
yeah until we get inside. So I'm gonna sort of gesture him inside until we can get to the water level, drops so we can talk basically in the tunnel.
Okay, you head into the tunnel. Eventually, it slopes upwards slightly, and you emerge from the water, so you can now talk. As you emerge, you see what appears to be a small, bedraggled, semi-transparent figure of a man sat against the wall, his legs splayed out in front of him. Again, his face is pockmarked and stained with all manner of effluvia. And as you walk past, he sort of reaches out with trembling, gauzy hands towards you, and he's like, please help me. My legs. I can't move my legs. Please, charity, good sirs. Don't let the dark angel take me. And he sort of holds out his trembling hands in an imploring manner towards you.
I'll just turn and say I was told to ignore these figures.
Are they figures or people?
I'm not sure what they are, but I was instructed to ignore them on my previous visit.
Well, I suppose we should listen to whoever is giving you this advice.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue to walk past.
Okay.
So, where exactly are we heading?
well, only coming here so I could explain. But this is I've met some more.
However, Franco, you are cut off mid-sentence by a voice that you would recognise as Durante, sort of echoing from the darkness further down the passageway you're in. And he says, "Brother Franco, have you considered my offer so quickly that you return to us?"
Your leader asked me to bring one of my group to discuss a proposal.
That he did. And this figure steps out of the shadows, a youngish looking man with pale, waterlogged looking flesh and a mop of frizzy, dark brown hair and a sort of semi-permanent scowl etched on his face. And he says, "Well then, I suppose you had best follow me to the audience chamber, brother." And he leads you both through these labyrinthine tunnels of this Nosferatu warren into the same chamber you were in previously, the one decorated with skulls and bones, and with numerous piles of skulls serving as makeshift chairs. He then says, "If you wait here, I will go and fetch the Grand Master." And he heads off into the side tunnel. Now, the two of you have got a few minutes when he's fetching Patrizio. If there's anything you wish to discuss, or do you just wait?
Yeah, I shall explain. There's more of my kind. They've been living under this, well, living in the water since they were hunted down many years back. But I've explained that things have changed, and they would like to send a representative to this gathering. And I said I would put the idea to one of my group that someone would be allowed to attend, with the agreement that obviously there would be no hostility. And I believe he's gone to fetch the leader of the group to discuss such a matter, if you're agreeable to speak to him.
While we're here, might as well. This is
Why?
quite a development.
But my thoughts exactly. But the young guy's gone, isn't he? Yeah. I say, but the guy that sent us, or who brought us here, he seems quite hostile. He seems quite keen to start some trouble. I'd be careful with that one.
And as
So I know who he's referring to, right? Like I
Yeah.
can pick out the one that's being referred to as like, oh yeah, this guy's the sort of
you
hothead.
think he's pretty sure that he's talking about the guy who led you in here.
Yep.
Okay, so you see this figure emerge into the chamber that you're in, and I'm going to try and share a picture with you guys. Let me know if it comes up for you.
Yep.
Okay, you see this wide-mouthed, pale, wormy-skinned figure with these strange sort of, what's that, cartilage, like growths coming out the side of his neck. He walks in very much sort of, I suppose, hobbling in like an older man, and he sits down on one of these piles of skulls, turns to look at you, and he says, "Brother Franco, I was not expecting you to return so soon. In the very same night."
It happened to my friend was nearby, looking for me. So I thought the opportunity.
"And tell me, who is your friend?" And he gestures with a pallid hand, still dripping water, in the direction of Aurelio.
Yeah, I'll gesture to Aurelio. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Greetings, brethren. I am humbly known as Aurelio of the Hecata, as it were.
Yes, your friend and our brother Franco has spoken of the Hecata. I must confess I can scarcely believe that that what he tells us about the reconciliation between the Cappadocians and the Giovanni, I can scarcely credit it.
There have been many developments of late that, if you have not noted this one, there will be further shocks to the system, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your particular stance on things.
Indeed, not since the nights of the great Sibylla have we walked in the moonlit world above.
What do you know of Sibylla?
Well, was it in the nights of old, before the Giovanni hunted us with fires and dark magic? As I've told our brother there, we were the eyes and ears of the once great and honoured Cappadocians. We were their spy masters and their strong right arms. We were their closest allies, and thus it was that the wrath of their inferiors, those who sought to be masters when they should have known nothing but gratitude, once the fire had burnt through the ranks of those great kindred, the flames spread to my own family, and those of us who survived were forced to take refuge in the dark, cold waters below the great city.
You have spent a great number of years on the run.
Indeed, we only survived by remaining quiet and allowing the devil kindred to think that we had all been killed, and slowly they forgot us. But we have remained here, those of us who survived.
God has clearly a purpose in mind. I mean, not to offend.
At which point,
I'll
Durante,
sort of like-
the younger of the two,
I'll-
is pretty
I'll,
much like, you're like. At which point, Durante, the younger of the two, is like, I don't think God had anything to do with it. If there was any God out there or any justice, he wouldn't have allowed those demonic Giovanni to cast down their betters and stamp their devil's mark on Venice. At which point, Patrizio, again holding his hands up, says, "You must forgive my second Durante, but he is not wrong. My family, our family, suffered greatly at the hands of the Giovanni, and for many of us, although it was many years ago, the wounds still run deep, and the anger for some," and he sort of nods in the direction of Durante, "runs deeper still."
I'll look to Durante.
Did you witness the flames of these long ago days?
He nods and says, My sire fell victim to the Giovanni purge. It was only due to her sacrificing herself to buy me time that I was able to escape to this place such as it is. But for many of us, whilst Patrizio and I'm sure others are keen to find out what is going on in this new world of yours. I and some others of my brethren know that there can never be any justice, or we cannot move on until what was done to us has been addressed. It should never have been allowed to happen, but those who claimed to be brethren with the Cappadocian and with ourselves, they, when we called for aid, when we called for help or succour from them, they turned their faces away because they had other matters to deal with, and it was not convenient for them to tangle with the devil kindred. Far easier to let us die beneath their fangs.
The ambition of men has ever been an obstacle to enlightenment. You are, I fear, just one victim along a very long line of victims stretching all the way back to Cain of myth and legend.
At which point Durante says, "And what of you, Master? I'm sorry. What did you say your name was?"
No, Master, I am Aurelio.
Well, Aurelio, what of you? Are you Cappadocian? Are you Giovanni? Who are you that, if, as I believe, Franco has brought you in here because Parisio believes that you might be able to secure safe passage for one of our representatives, who are you that we should entrust the safety of one of our number to your hands? Brother Franco here has a measure of our trust already because we share blood. The same cannot be said for us.
Well, we shall return to this anon. Secure... Please humor me for a moment longer. Secure a passage where...
At which point Parisio says, "Yes, your brother Franco mentioned that there is to be a gathering of this alliance, this group you call the Hecata, and that he is able to attend because of the protection of yourself, or you speaking for his good conduct." Brother Franco suggested that as perhaps the first step in an overture of peace, at which point there's like a snort from Durante, as an overture of peace, that we might send a single representative, but I'm sure you can understand I am hesitant to send one of our family into the lion's den, so to speak, without a similar guarantee of safe conduct. Our brother believed you may be able to provide this.
You wish to emerge after your long exile, then? Once more into the light, so to speak?
There are those like myself who it would be difficult for me now, and he sort of gestures at these like spikes coming out of his neck. It would be difficult for me now to walk in the world above. But there are younger members of our family. Some are those we have saved from a watery grave. Others we have saved from perhaps ending their life because they believe they had nothing to live for. They are younger than us. They are not so touched by a lifetime spent in the depths. If we knew there was no danger for them, they could once more walk on the surface and feel the air on their face and walk in the moonlight of Venice. It is for them I wish to see if a peace is possible.
It might even be that peace is no longer necessary because the war exists no longer. But I am not one to have this understanding. I am not as an August age such as yourselves.
I hope that what you say is true, but as I was explaining to our brother, and he gestures at Franco, that we have only survived this long by being extremely cautious and remaining out of sight. It It has become something of an ingrained habit for us, and it is one that is difficult to let go of.
I will add that those of us who survive of the Hecata have only done so with a copious amount of bloodshed among our own. So, if you are fortunate and if you have the blessing of
I look to Durante.
higher powers,
He rolls his eyes.
those who bear you ill will, for who and what you are, might long have been gone, simply due to the formation struggles of our new family. But I have been rude and prolonged my answer to your question for too long.
And I dig into my sopping wet robes to dig out my my mask. And I'll sort of like
I literally, like, before you've even put it on, you see Patrizio's like eyes widen, and he's like,
I whip
could
the
it be?
water out.
I've
and I'll put the death mask on my face.
it's like, you wear the mask of the Sibylla.
I'll bow and say,
I have the blessing of being Aurelio, sired by the one whose face I bear.
At which point, you see the Patrizio sort of, he puts his head on his hand as though he's like deep in thought, and he says, "Well, this casts a different reflection on things entirely." He turns to Durante and says, "Durante, I cannot ask. We will send a representative, because if there is a chance of peace, it may preserve our family. But I cannot ask any other member of the family to risk themselves. I will go as a representative. I have art enough to conceal my appearance from those who still walk on the mortal coil. And if this, as you seem to believe, Durante, this is merely the folly of an aged kindred mind, then the damage and the cost will fall on me alone." At which point Durante starts saying, "Oh look, you can't do this. It could be a trap." And Patrizio cuts him off and says, "As I say, I've made my decision, Durante, and this, as I say, if this should prove to be a trap or trickery of some kind, the cost will be mine to bear alone." At which point, although Durante's obviously not happy about it, he just sort of gives like a curt nod. Patrizio turns to you and he says, "Well then, you who wear the mask of the Sibylla, and Brother Franco, I will... When is this gathering to take place?"
I'll give him the details,
You give him the date,
and I'll add on a note at the end of that.
As I would be the one to extend the invitation, which does allow me to bring my associates, not of the blood, with me. I would, as I have not been witnessed by anyone in the city to consort with your own self, I would suggest an additional layer of security and trust that I may refer to and you may rely on as we head to the dinner.
Yes.
An exchange of vitae and the accompanying trust.
This is no small thing that you ask, Aurelio.
Yes. Well, I recognize the imbalance in my suggestion. And I hope that you will also recognize that I would like a certain level of security for my own self as well, for my family. In a word, ruthless.
I think I gather your meaning.
It will not be your head alone on the block.
And who would you suggest in this exchange is the giver of the gift, and who would be the receiver?
An exchange of gifts.
Between myself, presumably, and...
I bow my head.
You can see, like, Durante really does not look happy about this. But
And I snap to him in that instant.
Unless your lieutenant would be more interested in having my loyalty than your own self, for he seems to be most distrusting.
Durante almost sort of snaps. He says, I would not see myself shackled to another, nor have you, who I do not know, shackled to myself. And he starts to say something else, but again, like, Patricio cuts him off and he says, as I have said, Durante, the danger is mine alone. At which point he sort of stretches his arm out, and with, like, his talons he goes like that. You see a thin line open on his, like, pallid flesh, and what looks to be like dark black but with, like, a bluish tinge, sort of like blood, starts to, like, seep down his arm, and he sort of holds his arm out.
Yeah, no, I'll
And then he sort of holds his other hand out as though, like, he's waiting to receive something.
Yeah, no, I'll have to operate the mask off because it doesn't have the facility. So yeah, we'll take turns. So I will take a portion of his vitae, and I'll give him the same. I'll fish out a scalpel and do it that way because I don't have claws for that stuff. So I'll get my own arm open for him.
So, Franco, you watch as basically Patricio's got, like, his bleeding arm held out, and he's, like, holding Aurelio's bleeding arm, and they both sort of drink the blood of each other from their arms, and then they separate. Obviously, as the blood's entering your system, you can feel the first faint stirrings of this artificial sort of loyalty that I mean, it's low level because you only drank his blood.
Yeah, it's only one.
Yeah.
So we're friends now.
Yeah, you basically, like, feel the urge where you're like, oh, do you know what? Unless I really, really had to, I probably wouldn't screw this guy over. But you know, because you've initiated it, you know it's artificial, but it doesn't make it any less potent than it is. You can also see as Patricio steps back and he sort of wipes his mouth, he has like a slight smile on his face and nods at you and says, the exchange is done. There is now a bond betwixt you and I.
A question, John. Is it high grade? Because that was one of the big interests of Aurelio. Is this for real? Because if it is, I can tell.
It's the good shit.
Okay, so
yeah, you can tell from the blood that this Patricio is pretty old. And the fact that he knew your sire before the whole Cappadocian purge, and he keeps referring to Venice as, like, the Venetian Republic.
Yeah. So I was fact checking his timeline.
Yeah.
Check it out. So
Yeah.
So I'll back away. It's like
I appreciate your gesture of trust, as I hope that you will appreciate mine.
He says, yes, of course, but since you've told me when this gathering is to take place, and I would not endanger myself or others by walking around the city before then, since veiling myself is somewhat taxing, let us arrange to meet on the evening of the gathering before, that we may enter together as a show of good faith. If you would name a place where you wish us to meet on the 9th of this month.
So where exactly was the location of this event?
Now you're asking. I remember it was like a seafront, sort of mafia influenced restaurant. Let me see if I can find the.
Well, if it's on like the water, right?
Yeah.
We can get there by boat. So
Oh yeah.
I'll arrange to meet with on the I guess like it's just San Michel, because that's like he can get there easy. We can get there by boat, and then we can take the boat to where we need to go.
Okay, yeah. So it's taking place in the Ristorante alla Corone, located in San Marco, and yeah, let's say it's pretty much got a canal running outside the door.
Yeah. So we'll meet on San Michel, do a loop around the Arsenal, and then go to San Marco.
Okay. Okay, he says, very well. I shall meet you as earliest as I can when night falls in San Michel, and we shall travel to this gathering together and see what shall be done. At which point he sort of stands up, he walks over to you, Marco, and he sort of shakes you by the hand, and he says, you have my sincerest thanks, brother Marco, for arranging this. Perhaps thanks to you, the younger members of our family may once more know the moonlight on their skin and may walk in the free air of the city. Again, my thanks, brother. You have done our family and our clan a great service this night, and I will not forget it.
Yeah, I sort of accept his thanks, and I'll give a quick look to see what the old lieutenant is. He looking fairly peeved?
Actually, no, it's weird. He's stood there in the background, and you actually, mainly because you've sort of like picked up on a few of his like subtle facial expression, you notice he's actually got like a bit of a smirk on his face, which is odd.
We'll discuss this as we leave.
Okay.
So I'll go to offer my hand to shake with my new friend.
Yeah, but Patricio shakes your hand and he says, you are also to be thanked, and it is my hope that this may be the first step towards securing a new future for my family within Venice. But it will be a great adjustment.
Hopefully a new future for us all in the long term. God only knows my own family has made great strides towards that. And it saddens me that Sibylla never had the chance to see where this goes.
Indeed, you must tell me. During the final days of whilst I was once very close with her, during the final days of the purge, whilst I was rescuing what members of my family I could, I lost track of her in all the chaos. What you must tell me eventually what happened to her.
We shall reminisce.
Yeah, yes, you're right, of course. Now is perhaps not the time for ancient history when we are trying to forge a new future.
Yes, let us solve the issue of the day first.
Indeed. Well, I will leave you to your business, please. Durante, take them back the way you came. If you should see any of the restless spirits that linger in these halls on your way out, do not pay them any mind. They are echoes and weak phantasms. All they will do you no harm. There are many such echoes that linger in the labyrinths below Venice, but most of them are harmless.
Yeah, very good. I think we'll be on our way then, huh?
Okay, and you start heading out. Right, I'm going to call a 5 minute bathroom break, comfort break there, guys. Go use the facilities, refresh your drinks, etc. We'll come back in 5 minutes.
Whereas
So, obviously, it's getting fairly late slash early. We know that Hugo and Sonia are heading back to the communal haven. Obviously, Aurelio and Franco, you're shown out and can gain access to the surface of the stone wave break by use of the handholds that Franco is using. Fortunately for the two of you, when you get there, you see that the old sort of blind man is still in his rowboat round the other side of the embankment where he sort of went to avoid the police chase. It takes a little bit of persuading from Franco to basically let Aurelio in the boat, but eventually you will be able to persuade him to sort of ferry you back to the mainland of Venice. So because it's getting fairly early in game, is there anything you two want to do before presumably you head back to the communal haven as well?
I only wanted to explain my concerns to Aurelio about this guy.
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it. I mean, you've got a chance to talk as you're not heading back.
Yeah. So, obviously, your discussion with the elder of the group went well, but I assume you picked up on the sort of rather blasé and disrespectful nature of the younger lieutenant, or whatever he referenced him as. But he spoke to me on leaving last time. He wanted me to help him get some inside information to this meeting place. It sounded like he may have a number of warring sort of aggressive types that want to make the Nostrafau what we call the Nosferatu, yeah, getting back into a more higher status in the city. And even whilst you were discussing with this leader, he seemed to be smirking and he seemed to have something on his mind. Maybe he's still planning to attack the meeting. Maybe he's looking to displace the leader. I'm worried that it could be violence.
Yes, well, he seems like the attack dog.
They don't seem to be in agreement.
No. But well. The elder can hold their own, I'm sure. And what is left for us to do, I suppose, is to raise security. But well noted, well noted. I don't know that there was a terrible amount of things that we could do other than speculate.
I didn't want to put you or any of the rest of our group in danger, along with relations in this meeting.
Well, it wouldn't be the first bloody one.
Well, yeah, I realise that, but that's not the way I wish these things to go.
No, and we'll do our best to keep it from being exactly that. In fact, I will see to it that we have some eyes on your firebrand kindred. Maybe get a little bit of an advance warning if there's anything to know.
That's good to know.
Okay, and as that conversation draws to a close, you guys are getting back to the communal haven. Hugo and Sonia, you're at the communal haven. Obviously, you all meet up. So if there's anything you want to discuss as a group, obviously feel free to do so. Obviously, those two, as they walk in, they're absolutely like, obviously they're not like dripping water because they've walked a fair distance, but their clothes are still like soaked through. They've obviously been underwater. Obviously, Hugo's now toting a duffel bag with like body armor and shotguns in it. Hey, why not?
How are the fish?
It was interesting. Interesting meeting.
Big, in a word.
No.
Old.
We will have additional attendance at the evening gathering. Specifically, one of Franco's brethren, looking to make good with the family. We don't need to involve ourselves too much in this effort, but just so that everyone is aware, we will have an extra attendant, and we'll try and keep things from escalating should there be disagreements, for there might be an issue with us bringing an additional one that let's say no one has seen before. But if it comes to that, I will take responsibility for that. I will explain it away. We may have made some new friends tonight of Franco's kindred.
Let's hope so.
As you're having this conversation, suddenly there is a very watery and burbling version of the Nokia default ringtone start sort of like burbling out from one of Franco's pockets, but it sounds like it's basically someone like humming it into a straw with the other end in a bowl of water.
I'll see if it's still operating and answer it.
Man, it's a Nokia, man. Of course, it's still working. You take it out, and then like a little bit of water like leaks out of it as you like lift it out of your pocket, and you can see like the screen's not looking so hot. Like you can't really see the number that's like ringing, but it is ringing.
I'll answer it, yeah.
Okay, you answer it, and it's very crackly and distorted. Like obviously the time underwater's not done great stuff for it, but you can just about make out the voice of Lauro Mancini, the owner of the computer shop that you left the laptops with. And you hear him on the other end, and he's like, "Hello, hello, is that Franco there? Sorry, I can't really hear. The line's really bad. Franco." And you can hear him like obviously he's like tapping his phone at the other end.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can just about hear you, man. He's like, his voice like drops a little bit, and he's like, "Is this a secure line?"
Well, I'm struggling to hear it, so I doubt anyone else can.
He's like, right, yeah. You left those laptops with me. I've managed to get into a couple of them, and he's like, fucking hell, man. He's like, this is like some next level like NSA shit on these laptops, man. He's like, there's like months of online correspondence on these laptops, man. He's like, I've never seen anything like it. It's like this guy's been, whoever owned this laptop's been in contact with hundreds of people around the world. So I've never seen anything like it. It's like this is some like next level like NSA, CIA, and he like reels off a load of like other security agency acronyms. It's like yeah. I've not got into them all yet, but like I say, even just looking at these couple I'm looking at now, he says, what I can tell you is, from what I've been able to make out, this some anonymous group calling themselves Lap 5000, a good 6 months back, they posted this incredibly baroque and difficult like puzzle online, and they basically said they were looking for people of, and I quote, singular intelligence for a higher purpose, and that only the people who solved this puzzle would be on the in, basically. He says, I can't even make head. There's some of the information on this puzzle. It's like multi-layered. I can't make head or tail of most of it, but it looks like your boy here has been online with like dozens of other people, like teamed up. They've been trying to solve these puzzles, and each time they get through one step, it leads them to the next step of the puzzle. And like some of them are based on like coordinates around the world. Some of them are based on mathematics. Some of them are based on alphabetical literature. It's unbelievably complex. Like I can't make head nor tail of most of it, but it seems like this guy, the last part of the puzzle he solved led him to an address in Venice, and there he'd find some sort of barcode that would lead to the next step of the puzzle. Now, there's no details on that on these laptops I'm looking at. There might be some details on the other ones, but like I said, I've not managed to break through them yet. I mean, whoever this guy was, where you got the laptops from, hell, he knows the stuff. I mean, I'm pretty good with the tech, to be honest, but like the security on these laptops is next level. I mean, it's lucky I've even been able to get into 2 of them, and I'm no slouch when it comes to this sort of stuff. If I hadn't read some of this, I'd almost suspect these were like government machines or like security agency machines, due to the level of security. But no, I just wanted to let you know, like, straight away, because like I say, I can't guarantee how long it's going to take me to get into the other. So like I said, the security is next level. I mean, I'm going to try my best to get through them as quickly as I can, but I just wanted to let you know like what I'd found on the first couple. It's like, hey, you're not mixed up in some like government shit, are you, man?
No. This is a chance encounter.
He says, well, you hear about all that sort of stuff, don't you? You know, like secret government programs, and them sort of putting these like tests out there online for like people to undertake, and you know, when if you succeed at them, you know, you find yourself like disappeared into the engines of government and stuff like that. You know, this is how like the CIA and like the FBI and all this is how they like recruit people.
That's very interesting. See if you can find out as much as you can about the others, and then let me know when you're ready for me to visit.
He says, yeah, I've had no luck in finding the identities of the people he's been talking to online, because they seem to be like very skilled. I mean, more skilled than me. Like this person, they're rerouting their communications through remote servers. They're shielding their identities. It's all done anonymously. They're going through secure servers and stuff like that. He says, I don't even know whether I'll be able to identify them, but like I say, I'm going to carry on trying to crack into the other laptops and see if I can find any more about it. And then he's sort of like, almost though he's talking to himself, like, was he on the phone? He's like, yeah, man, this stuff's like next level. I've never seen anything like it. But yeah, I'll keep trying to see what I can find. And he said, yeah, but by the way, yeah, I'm sorry to ring you so late. I got into this. I get excited about this type of stuff. I lost track of time. Sorry if I've woke you.
It's not a problem. Keep me informed.
Yeah, I will. He says, you want me to get your phone looked at, Franco? He's like, your voice keeps fading in and out. I can barely hear you at some point.
Yeah, we'll discuss that.
Sorry, say again.
Yep. Out. See ya.
Yeah. Yep. And he hangs
I'll
up.
just hang up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problems.
I'll put it on the list of bits to get when I go to talk to him about CCTV.
Yeah, no
New
problem.
phone.
Okay, so since it's getting fairly early and you all start to feel the sort of tiredness of days slowly creeping over you. Is there anything else you guys want to do before you rest for the daylight hours?
Nah.
Don't think so.
Okay. You all...
I will go to my haven,
Okay.
my own haven, and I'll send Legion to watch Durante.
Okay. The sort of conglomeration of spirits that you've taken to referring to as Legion says, "Are you sure you wish us to go? Below, we may not be able to return."
Will some of you be able to return?
Unknown. The labyrinths below the city, they constantly pull at us, trying to pull us down. It is only when we hear the call of those like yourself or others skilled enough that call drowns out the siren song of the labyrinth.
I'll give him or it the address of the restaurant in what's it, San Marco.
And what is it you wish us to do?
Go to this place and watch for interference of or presence of those who are below, and report to me if you witness anything.
Very well.
Yep.
And it sort
And
of
I'll-
fades into the shadows.
Yeah, and I'll put myself in one of my freezer boxes for for corpses for the day.
Okay, no problems. So you all rest through the day. You wake up the next evening. We are now on the 4th of January, which is a Wednesday. You will all need to make a rouse roll to see if your hunger rises. If you succeed, it stays the same. If you fail, it goes up by 1, obviously. But it should do that automatically. Okay. And you all wake up the next evening. 3 of you at your communal haven. Obviously, Aurelia out at your personal haven. You can see as you look out of the window that the moon continues to wax and is getting brighter in the sky.
When is the next full moon?
Okay, the next full moon will be, let me just check. The next full moon will, strangely enough, it's funny you should mention that. The next full moon will be on the evening of the Giovanni gathering on the 9th. It's funny how that works out.
Entirely unplanned.
Yeah, of course.
Just happened that way.
Yeah, it's one of them things.
Established Aurelio's phone was in any working order, didn't we?
But basically, I'm going to assume that like your phones, they're probably a bit dodgy, but they're mostly in working order. I'm not going to track like whether all of your equipment was damaged by the water, because really, if you need to replace your phones, you've all got the resources to like do it fairly easily without having to delve into it. So yeah,
I'll take care of that for us too.
Yeah, Mr. Moneybags.
let's say Franco's just like, I need a new phone.
I'm going to text Aurelio. What rituals can be performed in a full moon?
You hear that sound of Aurelio cracking out his big book of necromancy. Like,
Yeah, I suppose we would have a bit of a sort of research montage
yeah.
in the morning, as in early evening.
I would say that pretty much any necromantic ritual that you know of can be performed during a full moon. You would know that certain rituals are made, well, most of them are made like more difficult if the shroud is thicker, and whilst the thickness of the shroud can vary from place to place, it can also vary based on certain like astronomical activities. And you would know that during a full moon, due to its association with mysticism and stuff like that, depending on how your character views that during a full moon, overall, not in every place, but generally, the shroud is like a little bit weaker. So some rituals are like more powerful, more complex ones are a little bit easier to perform. It's not like the shroud disappears and it's like a wraith freeway, but it just like dips slightly. And there's been numerous theories proposed as to why that may be, from the moon's association with like mysticism and like ancient beliefs, to it being related to the moon affecting the shroud in a similar way to the way it affects the tides, for instance. But none of them have really given like 100% satisfactory answer, and a lot of necromantically inclined kindred aren't really that bothered why it happens, but they know it does. So you know that like if someone wanted to do like, I'm doing this ritual which pulls a lot from beyond the shroud, if I want to do it and make doubly sure it works, I'm going to try and do it in as an auspicious date as I possibly can, i.e. like the full moon. And it's it's probably no coincidence that Giovanni that the masters of necromancy, the Hecata as they're now known, have chosen to do this meeting on such an auspicious night, because if they've got necromantic defences and mystical wards and such like, it would be easier for them to do that on a larger scale to encompass a premises like the restaurant where the meeting is taking place. It would be far easier for them to do that on a full moon. They could probably still do it normally, but it would take a lot more effort and it would be a lot more strain to do it.
So I'll text back. Not a key, semicolon. Instead, force multiplier, comma, high tide.
So that's the text you get back.
Then. I shall text back threat assessment.
With like a question mark.
Yeah.
Pending level of hostility is the reply. And the second follow-up message, if reason to be hostile.
I'm going to text back then. Family is reasonable.
I'm wondering, like, what would be like Aurelio's like affirmative, because he wouldn't know what an emoticon was. No, it's just yes. Send. Follow-up message. Have to be on watch.
I'll just text back constantly full stop, so he knows I've stopped talking at that point.
Okay, so whilst this lengthy text conversation's going on, Hugo, what are you up to?
I've gone to my own haven.
Okay.
And I am checking in my shotguns and my body armor.
Nice.
'Cause I
Just
also have a,
remind me, what form does your personal haven take?
it's just like a basement apartment.
Yes.
Um, right on the canal side, just a little apartment, tiny little yoke. And but I have an armory there, so I have a rifle and a number of handguns and 2 shotguns now.
Lovely.
And after that, then I will, I think, text my contact, Arnaldo Capresi, to say I bumped into some of your goons last night in the bay. Seems like they ran into some trouble. Just letting you know.
Okay, so you will get a call back from Arnold Capresi. So since it's your contact, what sort of fellow is Arnold Capresi? Like, if you had to like describe him overall in just like a quick sentence, how would you describe him? Obviously, we know he's a criminal.
I think we said he was a hipster.
That's right. Yeah, he's the hipster criminal, isn't he?
He's the hipster wannabe. Yeah. Mr. Wannabe. So with the ridiculous kind of hat and really long coat and dungarees.
Yeah, so after you've texted him, he rings you back and he's like, "Hugo, my man,
how are you? Been a while."
He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, doing good. Business is ticking over. What's he say about running into some of my boys?
We were some of your boys were trying to pull off a robbery last night. Seemed to go wrong.
He was like, oh, those idiots that were supposed to do the fucking. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. No,
mate, two of them, 3 of them maybe got arrested.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I know about it. He's like, yeah, unfortunately. He's like, look, my man, I don't know if you know this. Is like, look, the family, and you can almost hear him doing like the air quotes. He's like, the family in Venice.
I do.
He's like, well, you might not be aware of this. He's like, but listen, a lot of their high ups got pinched recently by the police. Now, a lot of their properties and the hedge funds, the place they squirrel away their money and stuff like that. That's all fine because they've not got a paper trail. They can link back to them. They're good about that sort of stuff. But he's like, a lot of their guys, like high up, like big serious guys, like got pinched. Now, normally, there's been a bit of fallout from that. Now, normally, if I'm getting some people to do a job, I get proper professionals to do it. You know what I mean? It's not amateur hour here. I like to get some proper people who know what they're doing. Only the best will do. And he says, right, well, unfortunately, at the minute, with so many of them getting pinched, the old talent pool has got a little bit shallow, my man, if you know what I'm saying.
I do.
And unfortunately, the people I was supposed to have leading that particular excursion also got pinched. So I had to make do with what was left. Now, I've got to admit, my bad, when they said they got the skills to pay the particular bills, I took them at their word. But it seems like what's happened, they maybe talked a good game, but they maybe not got the skills to back up what they were saying, you know what I mean?
I do.
I
just hope they're not talking today.
He's like, put it this way, he's like, I'm no amateur, like, they weren't hired directly by me. I went through a few different people to like get in touch with them, so they won't have anything that links directly back to me. But obviously, I mean, yeah, if my boys have caused you any inconvenience, my man, I can only apologise. I mean, like I say, normally these drags, I wouldn't even give them the time of day, to be honest. But I'd made certain commitments and needed the job done. I mean, I'm in pretty hot water as it is at the minute because I've got people who were expecting me to be able to deliver, and now thanks to these rank amateurs, I'm not going to be able to hold up my side of the bargain. So I'm gonna have to dig into my own personal pockets to like pay these interested parties off, rather than just skimming a bit off the top of what we were supposed to be getting profit wise from this little excursion. He's like, amateurs.
Hiring amateurs is a false economy, isn't it?
Oh yeah. He's like, to be honest, if I'd have known how amateur they were, I'd have pulled the plug on the whole thing. He's like, yeah, like I say, my bad in this case. Yeah, I can only apologise if they caused you any trouble.
Nah,
if they did, let me know and I'll make it right with you, my man.
No trouble at all. Just they're throwing your name around. Just wanted you to be aware.
Ah. Okay. Well, I appreciate the heads up. I'll probably have to go to ground for a bit, to be honest. So if you don't hear anything from me for a while, that'll be why. To be honest, I didn't think any of them have even got my name, but obviously some of them are a bit smarter than they looked, and certainly a bit smarter than they're good at being extraction specialists, shall we say? Because they certainly weren't too hot in that department.
No, they weren't.
He said,
yeah,
fancy trying to extract some goods and then going like, oh, the police are on their way. Let's try and get away from them in a boat. Like, if they'd have had any common sense, they'd have split the goods between them, they'd have disappeared into the alleyways and the streets around the city, and then have reconvened later. You get all your men in a boat and you head for the open water. All the police are going to do is pile into another boat and come and get you, and your fuel will only last just. Sorry, my man. I'm just getting worked up. But amateurs, they do this to me. He's like, this is why I don't normally deal with amateurs.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm fuming about it. Again, my apologies. But yeah, thanks for the tip off. I'm going to go to ground for a bit. I'll drop you a message or something when I'm poking my head above water, so to speak, again. And again, thanks for the tip off, man. Like I say, if they did cause you any trouble, let me know and I'll make it right.
Nah. All good. All
right, take care of yourselves. Stay lucky, my man.
Yeah, you too.
Dude.
And then I think I'll just head back to the communal haven, see what the plan is.
Okay. So you're making your way back to the communal haven when, as you're probably about, obviously it's like early in the evening, you're probably about 2 streets away from the communal haven when you spot what appears to be and like I say, the moonlight's fairly bright because the moon is like waxing. It's getting brighter, although there's still areas of shadow cast by it at the moment. You see in the flickering light of a street lamp what appears to be a figure, maybe a woman, that they're sort of silhouetted in the flickering light of a lamppost. So it's difficult to tell, but maybe a woman. But they appear to be trying to walk down the street, like in pretty much the same direction you're heading. But they appear to be like in some distress, like they're really struggling. Like you keep seeing them sort of like sag against the wall and like hold onto the wall, and sort of like have to like pull themselves up, and then they keep sort of like tripping over as they're like struggling down the street, like they're really having a difficult time of walking.
Okay, and are they dressed like a tourist?
Difficult to tell. You're still some distance away. I mean, obviously, if you want to get closer.
Yeah, I'll get a little bit closer because I'm hungry.
Yeah, you start moving closer, and as you're getting a little bit closer to them, even before you can sort of pick out more of the details of them, you start smelling like a faint sort of singed or sort of like burning smell.
Okay.
Like a sort of old bonfire. And as you presumably continue to get closer, the figure eventually resolves itself and you recognise Valerie Reyes, who is a member of the tourists' coterie. She was the female bourgeois who seemed to be like the sort of peacemaker of that coterie. However, as you get closer and you can see her in more detail, you can see that one entire side of her face is like scorched and blistered as though it's been burnt, and like all of her clothes down one side are sort of like blackened and charred and like bits are falling off them, and you can see like pretty much like there's burns all over her body. Like if she was a mortal, she she wouldn't be walking at all. And even as a kindred, because fire is obviously quite damaging to kindred, she is still struggling, but it's only due to the blood of Cain that she's moving at all. But you can see like one of her eyes is sort of like milky and obviously like not seeing anything, and she's basically like pulling herself along this wall, like trying to get down this street.
Okay. How do kindred heal themselves? Is it all through?
It's through rousing the blood. However, certain types of damage like fire or like supernatural damage take a lot longer to heal. So if this was done recently, you know, she probably will heal it eventually, but it's going to take longer than like if you got like a cut on your arm, you'd be like, spend some blood, zip, healed.
Yeah.
Whereas fire, damage from vampire fangs, like protean claws and stuff like that, what we call aggravated damage, takes a lot longer to heal.
Okay. And then is she heading in the direction of her coterie or away from her?
She seems to be heading roughly, like, say, in the same direction you're heading, so, like, towards your communal haven, it seems like.
Okay. And where is her coterie in relation to our haven? Is it nearby? Is it?
Yeah. Your sort of communal haven is, like, here.
Okay.
And theirs is basically over here.
Okay.
So it's in the opposite direction.
Okay. So I will who was the leader of that coterie?
Okay, the leader of the tourists' coterie was a male American bourgeois by the name of Raiden Scott. He was like a tall, like lanky guy.
Okay. And this woman's name again
is Valerie Reyes.
Valerie Reyes.
And in the tourists, there was the leader Raiden Scott, who was a bourgeois American. There's Valerie Reyes, also an American anarch bourgeois, and there was Damien Campbell, who was like an English anarch gangrel. And there seemed to be like a bit of sort of friction between Raiden and Damien, but like Valerie was like the peacemaker of the group, you know, the sort of one who like smoothed over any tensions and was like, oh, let's just get on with each other.
Okay. So I will text Raiden and say that I found Valerie, she's in a bad way, and that I am going to bring her to our communal haven. And as I guess kind of pick her up, I'll ask her what happened.
Okay, so you text that, you start heading towards it. As you're heading towards it to ask what happens, your phone beeps and you get a text message back from Raiden's number, and it just says, no, it's not safe, meet me here, and it gives you an address.
Okay.
A bit further sort of southwest in San Marco.
Okay. So I'll pick her up and I will head in the direction of where he told me to go.
Okay.
And
so you pick Reyes up. She's not very big, so it's not difficult, and you're fairly strong. As you pick up, she seems almost sort of delirious or like in a sort of semi-fugue state, which isn't surprising given the amount of damage she's sustained. As you pick her up, she's like, oh, I've got to get help. They got Raiden and Campbell. I've got to get some help.
Who has them?
I don't know who they were. We were out fading like we normally do, and they think they did something to the blood. We were after we finished. We went to get a water taxi to get home, and they sat upon us. I couldn't move quickly enough. I say they think they did something to the blood. They got Raiden and Campbell. During the fight, I got knocked overboard. I don't know how long I was in the water, but eventually they burned me. I barely had enough strength to haul myself out of the water.
Okay.
I've got,
So-
and she's like clutches your like lapel. I've got to do something. They've got Raiden and Campbell.
Okay. Well, let's get you somewhere safe first. So I will rethink my previous plan and go back to my original plan and bring her to the communal haven.
Okay. So you start heading to the communal haven. Okay, when you get there, obviously Franco and Sonia are there. So you're there as Hugo comes in carrying Valerie Reyes, and like I say, like she's got like horrible, like extensive burns like all over her body. Half her clothes are sort of melted to her skin or like burnt off. One of her eyes is just like white, sort of pearlescent, so she's not seeing out of it. Like a bit of the skin on one side of her jaws going. There's this horrible smell of burnt flesh and sort of charring about her. And Hugo's pretty much carrying her.
So I lay her down and then explain that Raiden and Damien seem to have been captured by someone who poisoned their blood, or did something to their blood. And when I text them to see if they were okay, they're after directing me to a random location in San Marco. So I guess the question is anyone hungry?
Oh, I'm happy to come along and help. If someone's in danger, I feel that we should help out.
Okay. And what's Sonia's thoughts on this?
So, this woman's been attacked, and Hugo's texted allegedly Raven,
Yeah.
and Raven's pointed them at somewhere in San Marco.
Yeah, he got the reply, oh, shall I bring her to your haven? And he got the reply back, it's not safe. Meet me at this address, and gave him like it's like a random like street address in San Marco.
So chances are high that that's not safe either.
No, it's definitely going to spring the trap and get some revenge for poor Valerie.
And Aurelio's at his haven. So I better text Aurelio again. So are you safe?
I think just yes. Send. Unless John, I'm having, like, firebomb attack.
No, you know. Yeah. Everything is as you would expect it to be in your personal haven.
Yeah, my little mortuary cupboard.
Is this the anarchist group?
Yes, it's the Anarch coterie.
Yeah. So I'll text Aurelio then. Anarchist's been attacked. Unknown force.
Plan ? Send.
So I've put 1, ensure you're safe. 2, wait for Hugo to decide if he's going to go and spring a trap or not. 3, ?
Let me know when 3. Send.
Right, so you want to go and deal with this, or do you want to go past their haven and see if you can see anything out of the ordinary first?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Or yeah, swing by.
Okay.
And then we can go to San Marco and you can see if you're hungry or not.
I'm definitely hungry.
Okay, so you're swinging by the Anarch's haven in sort of northwest Castello, just on the border between Castello and Cannaregio. See what's going on there, and then you're planning to like swing back down to this address in San Marco. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll go for a Rialato.
Yeah, no problems. So, Franco, are you going with them?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you meeting up with Aurelio, or Aurelio, are you doing something different? Just find out what everyone's doing. Obviously, up to you guys.
I'm happy to have Aurelio with us, to be fair. I mean, at least I know he's safe then.
Because obviously, it's not difficult for you guys to like arrange to meet up somewhere en route.
No,
So,
we can meet in Rialato, to be honest.
okay. So, Aurelio, are you going to meet these guys in Rialto?
Yeah. If they, because
Yeah.
basically, all Aurelia was saying, like, let me know when, which
Yeah.
way the coin lands, and then we'll figure it out. So
I'll
if you
just-
guys say, like, meet us here, I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll go free and then say square Rialato.
Yeah.
So,
I won't reply.
So basically, what I want to know is: are you guys planning on going to the Anarch Haven, then sort of circling around to the Rialto, meeting Aurelio, and then going to San Marco, or are you going straight across to the Rialto, meeting Aurelio, then checking the Haven, and then going to San Marco?
We'll take Aurelio to the Haven because
Okay.
he's got better senses than I have in certain terms.
Okay, not a problem. So you head across one of the large bridges into the Rialto. Obviously, all the carnival preparations are still sort of going on in Venice. But the engine of tourism is starting to like shift up a gear, effectively. So there's quite a lot more people around.
Yeah.
Not really a major problem. You meet up with Aurelio in the Rialto, and you head up to the northwest border between Castello and Cannaregio, where you know the tourists' haven to be, and it's a fairly modest, sort of smallish domestic building. It's not as big as your guys' communal haven. It's just where they doss during the day. It's nothing particularly special. You head towards it. You don't see anything particularly untoward about it on first inspection. Like the door's not been kicked in or anything like that. It just appears you can't see any lights on inside. It just appears to be this small sort of residential building, again, sort of built upwards rather than outwards, like most of the buildings in Venice.
If we just walk past it, I think is the
Okay.
best option.
So what I'm going to say, guys, is any of you who are walking past, which obviously is all of you, if you wish to make any sort of like investigation roll or any sort of a insight roll or anything like that, to see if you notice anything on a further inspection, obviously let me know if there's anything particularly you're looking for, and then feel free to make your roll. And based on how many successes you get will determine what you see, pretty much. Obviously, if you want to use any disciplines or anything like that, obviously let me know.
I'll take a gander, opening my senses to the unseen world,
Okay.
using
Sense the unseen. Okay.
Indeed. So let's see. So resolve and aspects that
Yep.
I'm looking for.
Go for
Like
it.
I'm looking for stuff. So resolve and aspects. Okay, so resolve. Oh, that's not how that works. There. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
2.
2 successes. So, as you're...
Uh,
Sorry, go ahead.
As I say, what would I roll my investigation with? Is it wits or intelligence?
It would most likely be wits. Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Possible
it's not
bestial
a
failure.
bestial failure because you've got a success, so it's fine.
Okay.
Is there anything going wrong, John? Yeah. Yeah, one of you is freaking out in the street.
Okay, so we've got Franco's as well. Are you looking to roll as well, Sonia?
No, I've got no investigation skills. All of mine are purely about breaking the law,
Thuggery,
not
I understand.
caring about it. Yeah.
Conflict resolution.
Yeah. Okay, so I really am. As you open your senses to anything that may be supernaturally veiled from sight. At first, you don't see anything as you look at the building. However, as you're taking in the sort of general area and you're sort of looking around, you are momentarily sort of taken aback by, from a small domicile directly on the street opposite the haven of the tourists' coterie, to your now unveiled sight, there is what appears to be a brilliant white light, viewable only by yourself, streaming out to the windows and under the door of this domicile across the street. And it takes you aback because the light almost imbues a lesser version of the same sort of panic that sunlight would inflict on a kindred. It's not the same strength, but it feels similar.
So yeah, Aurelia's gonna flinch when he's looking at the other side of the street.
Yeah, so any of you watching Aurelia, you see he looks at the building, he's like, then like, as he turns to look at this building across the street, he's like, however, in addition, Hugo and Franco, you will see as you're sort of looking at it that the door of the tourists' haven obviously has been broken into, but it's been broken in such a way that like the doors, like the lock's been picked, so like the door can be shut afterwards and leave like little sign that it's been interfered with. But like due to some of your, shall we say, questionable associates, you sort of like know the signs to look for. And you go with your investigation plus wits, you think for a few moments, although there's no light on in the haven of the tourists, you think you see very briefly in the sort of like second story window like a shadow quickly move across the window pane, like there's someone in there.
And this is in the haven or in the
haven?
One in the haven, okay.
What do you do?
So I take it we keep walking past before discussing.
Yeah, that's fine. You can walk past. Now, if indeed you like walk through this light that only you seem to be able to perceive, Aurelio, it feels distinctly unpleasant and makes your skin crawl. It doesn't cause you any harm, but it feels like very wrong for you to be in this light. Like say, it's a almost like a pale reflection of how you'd feel if you like stuck your arm into sunlight as a vampire, but it's not that strong that it would cause you to like panic and flee in terror like the sunlight might do.
Yeah. Aurelia is going to keep walking, presuming everyone else is. So we'll just sort of get to, I guess, like a dark alleyway.
Yep. Not a problem.
Someone's definitely, broken in there, but very carefully to not alert others, maybe.
It definitely feels like there's still someone in there.
No sign of fire.
There's there's something very bizarre opposite the haven. There is a door beyond which shines an unnatural light, which is by its nature anathema to us. I don't quite know what to make of it, to be honest.
Perhaps we should try and find the source.
But it's not in the haven.
No.
It's on the other side of the street, right, John?
Yeah, it's in like a building opposite to the haven, like facing it.
Um,
I think someone's discovered the haven and trying to clear it out.
I would say if there is indeed someone in the haven, maybe we could learn from them what this is about.
Yeah, but then you're giving yourself away to
Yes,
what
and I
appears to
presume
be a
then
very
they would,
hostile threat.
and then I presume they would give themselves away, presuming whoever is on the other side of the street are with the ones inside.
too much of a coincidence for them not to be.
But I wouldn't. It's I'm not a military man, but it seems like if we went to knock on the other side of the street on the door, that would be like knocking on the gates of a fortress rather than
Yeah.
tracking down whoever's in the haven. But that's I wouldn't be either of those people, so
John, these houses all have back doors and all, do they?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So I could try and break in through the back door or a back window. Get a sense of the.
That's it. If you can flush them out of there rather than us getting flushed out, it's probably going to be a bit easier than. So otherwise, we've got to worry about our own haven.
True.
I've got break-in stealth sort of tactics or
Yeah, me
specialities.
too.
So maybe we should look for a back door or another way in that's not in plain sight of the this other building across the street.
Well, yeah, I would tell you that finding a back door to this building isn't difficult. It's just a case of like heading round the alleyways round the back of it, and like most buildings, there'll be a back door there.
Let's do it.
So, if me and Aurelio stand in the street conversing, I don't know, let's talk about religion, Aurelio. You're still in your priesty garb, so we'll look semi-normal whilst those two break in and we'll see if anything runs out the front.
Aurelio really doesn't look that normal. In fact, if I had to describe the type of predator he looks like, I'd say it was obvious.
He looks like the bad kind of priest.
It's like if I had to pick which one of you looked least humane, I would say, despite the fact Franco's a Nosferatu, it's probably Aurelio at the minute.
Listen, man, it's the light, okay?
Well, yeah, you're in moonlight, which obviously washes out colours and makes everyone look pale. Aurelio already looked pale and like a fanged corpse. So you can imagine how he looks.
Quota of blood.
Yeah, but he's not spent any of it to like engage his blush
No.
of health.
No, I haven't.
So yeah, he's not hungry, but he still looks like a walking corpse.
Okay, so if you're going to stand outside and converse, then we should break into the one across the road from the haven and try and find the source of the light.
Again, that's probably a bad idea.
Now let's see who's in the haven still,
Okay.
if there is someone in there.
going to
Okay.
try and flush them out, or are you going in?
Yeah, no, we stay here and we talk. They go in.
We'll go in and see what happens. If they make a run for it, hopefully you'll see them.
Okay.
So let's try and break in the back door secretly, as secret or quietly as possible.
Okay, so which what you will break in? That's not a thing you will break in. This is going to be a roll to see like how quietly and how quickly you do it. Obviously, more successes, more quietly, more quickly. So, which of you wants to break in? And we're probably talking some sort of larceny roll, probably dexterity larceny or something like that. Obviously, I'm open to other options. Whenever I say anything like this, it's just a suggestion. If you've got an
Yeah,
alternative,
I
shout
mean,
it
it
out.
says stealth on break-in.
Yeah, you can go. You can go for
specialities,
stealth. That's absolutely fine. I have no
but,
problems with that.
I've got 2 dex and 3 stealth. I don't know what you've got.
I have the same. So do you want to just? Can I assist in some way?
Yeah, I was going to say, in which case, whichever one of you rolls, you can have a 1 dice bonus because the other is helping you. Because you're both at the same skill level.
Okay. I'll give it a roll then. So I'll just put a 1 in the modifier.
Yep, that's right.
Cool. See what happens.
Damn! Oh, it's a messy critical. Oh, let me just consult my my messy critical notes, which I can never remember where they are. And like an idiot, I put a bookmark in the book specifically to note this, and I dropped it out of the book halfway through this session when I was looking for something else, which is always handy. Oh no, here we go. It's still in there. Lovely jubbly. Okay, messy critical. So, you succeed as an irregular critical, but you succeed like an animal would, not being capable of foresight or self-control. So, the options we have here, and obviously I'm happy to have a bit of a discussion about this, is you can gain 1 or more stains from doing this in a monstrous fashion. We can obviously discuss what that is. You could breach the masquerade in some form, so that'd be the case where like you pick the door, you burst through with like your fangs out or something like that. I don't know. You can lose a dot from an advantage. I don't see how we'd work that in, or you can just go for like it's just a fail. So I'm open to a discussion of which one of those you prefer. I'm not really sure how you'd pick a lock monstrously, if I'm perfectly honest.
So
More of a
Open
foot through the
to
door,
suggestions from the group. Because
Yeah,
you
so-
have been successful, so it's not like, unless you choose to fail, it's not like you've failed to pick the lock.
So you can always turn that sort of like monstrously, like, okay, you've got fangs and claws and stuff, but you can turn that into an like inward facing thing. Picking locks is a little bit difficult. The
Yeah.
reason why I think we might pick that is like maybe you decide just like, man, like I can just do this, and you just like pop the lock so hard that it just like falls out the thing, something you wouldn't do as a human. But the sort of getting stains part is like you do something that makes you recognize that you're no longer people, you're a monster now. So it could be like you're accidentally letting yourself know that you're something that shouldn't be. But picking locks is a little bit difficult. I like because it's a finesse thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
What I might throw out there as a suggestion is perhaps as you're picking the lock, the person who's in the building happens to be like in the room on the other side, and maybe as you sort of pop the lock and you see them, you react instinctively in a less sort of moderated way. I'm not saying you like insta kill the person, but maybe you sort of react in
Or
a
is it
Dominance
strange way.
behavior, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, or is it more the fact that he looks like a vampire anyway? That sort of plays on that, you know, because he's not expecting someone to be there. It's not like he can sort of throw up his mask of 1,000 faces or any of that sort of stuff. So he sort of goes in there looking like a vampire. So
Yeah.
it's quite simple that someone would pick up on that.
Okay, so add yourself 1 stain to your humanity tracker.
Okay. Oh, is that? You just put a line on.
Yeah,
the-
you fill in 1 at the other end of the tracker.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so you pop the lock open, but you're so sort of like focused on that you, like you say, you forget to veil yourself or anything like that. When you enter the room, you're in your full sort of Nosferatu glory, so to speak. You've got Hugo obviously like behind you, sort of helping you out with it. And as you burst in, you see the first thing you see is there appears to be a guy dressed in black. He's got like a set of like strange looking like goggles high up on his head, and he appears to be like talking into like a walkie-talkie. He's got his back towards you. As you come in, you hear him say, "I've just done a sweep of the premises, Father. Nothing to report yet." And as he's saying that, he sort of like turns around and he sees you guys, and he's like, obviously sees you in your full Nosferatu-ness, and he's like, but he wasn't expecting anyone to come in, so you guys have like a bit of chance to react because you did succeed in getting the lock done silently, so you guys have still got the drop on him effectively.
So I would like to jump on him, knock the walkie-talkie away, and start eating.
Okay, make a dex brawl roll.
Sorry, Dex and
Brawl,
Brawl.
because you're effectively trying to grab hold of him and start chomping.
Ooh, not so much.
Okay, so you grab hold of him. You've not managed to knock the walkie-talkie out of his hand, but you're basically sort of like struggling with him. He actually appears to be like pretty competent, like he's recovered his wits pretty quickly, and he's managing to sort of like fend you off from like biting him, but you're both sort of like grappling with each other. Okay, Franco, what do? As you see Hugo sort of leap across the room and he starts tussling with this guy. You've got his hand out, so he hasn't got like the walkie-talkie at his face, so he can't immediately just be like, "I need some help," but like he's still got hold of it and he's trying to like keep you off him with his other hand.
Yeah, I'll try and help out with disabling him basically, but I'm not particularly great at it either. But it'd be the same, I guess, brawl and dexterity.
Yep. And what's your aim with this roll? Are you looking to knock the guy out? Just like twist his arm up behind his
well,
back
definitely,
and like...
Yeah, definitely get that walkie-talkie away from him. So either use strength to twist his arm that's got it behind his back so he releases it, or
Yep.
just take it off of him.
Go
One
for
or
it.
the other. But like I say, I'm pretty useless at this myself. But let's see.
Okay, one success. Yeah, that's fine. Cause obviously he's already like occupied with Hugo, so he can't really defend himself, particularly against you. So as Hugo's like trying to bite into him on one side, and he's got his arm, Hugo's like holding his arm out with this walkie-talkie, so he can't get it to his face. You pretty much like slap the walkie-talkie out of his hand, grab hold of this extended arm, and like twist it right up behind his back. Effectively like incapacitating him. He's not like now an immediate threat.
Mm-hmm.
As you're sort of tussling with him, these like weird goggles he's got on his face sort of fall off, and as they sort of fall and they land in a patch of moonlight, you can see there's like a bit of like a red tinge on the glass that's in, or the plastic that's in the lenses of these goggles.
Okay. Would I recognize them from my military background?
You would indeed. Thank you for bringing that up. You recognise that these would appear to be effectively like infrared goggles, so like for detecting heat.
Okay. So is he still conscious?
Yeah, he's still conscious, but obviously Franco's got him like his arm twisted right around his back. The guy's not saying anything.
Okay.
He's gone like very
So
quiet.
I will do my Eyes of the Beast, which make me super intimidating.
Yeah. You see, it flinches back away from you as your eyes take on this like reddish like glow, and he starts muttering under his breath, and it takes a while for you to like realize it's very low, but he seems to be like muttering the Lord's Prayer under his breath.
Okay. So I will slap him and say, how many are in the haven?
He says, you'll get no information out of me, devil.
Okay. So then I'd like to bite him and see if he still is.
He's in no position to resist, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, you bite him, and as we all know, when a vampire bites someone, this like wave of sort of bliss goes over them. He goes limp in your arms, Franco. How much blood are you looking to? How much hunger are you looking to slake on this person?
So I guess so just when he gets super happy, does he get super willing to share secrets with me, or is he just kind of out of it? Like
He's still capable of talking. He's still conscious, but it's almost like he's like really, really like stoned or like high. So like
okay.
he's a bit sort of like, oh, I don't really know what's going on. I'm a bit sort of out of it, but he can still talk. He's definitely not putting up any physical resistance now. Because previously, obviously, he couldn't get away from Franco, but he was quite tense. Like, if Franco loosens his grip for a bit, I'm off. Whereas now he's just sort of like all like limp and not resisting at all, and he's got like this sort of dreamy, sort of like I said, like slightly like stoned expression on his face.
So what I think I'd like to do is bite him enough that he gets into this kind of stoned type state, and then kind of ask him again how many other people are in the haven and who's across the road, and to kind of interrogation style.
Okay, yeah. So you can knock your hunger down by 1 because you're only like sipping from him effectively to create this effect. And as you're sort of repeating your questions, his voice is quite slurred and a bit sort of dreamy because he's in this weird sort of state. And he's like, "Oh, the soldiers of the Lord are limitless. There are hundreds of us in God's army."
How many are in this building?
He says, the task was given to me by the Father to do one last sweep of this den of devils before we withdrew to observe.
And where are you going to observe from?
We have a position watching this building. The devils always return to their dark places of power sooner or later.
Is the Father observing at the moment?
The Father stands ready, for the light of the Lord is with him, and with the Lord on our side, we'll purge this great city of these devils and these demons.
And what's the Father's name?
At which point I reach for my random name generator. Okay. He says, Father Angelo will not allow these demons to escape.
Father Angelo. Okay. How easy is it to turn this guy into a retainer?
It's basically a matter of feeding him your blood. Now, as we talked about earlier, like if you want to make him into a ghoul, effectively, it's basically a matter of feeding him your blood. As we discussed with Aurelio when he was drinking the blood of the Nosferatu, if you drink a vampire's blood once, you feel like a bit of loyalty to them, like you wouldn't cause them harm unless you had no other choice, but you're not like best mates. If you drink twice from someone on like consecutive nights, then you're really loyal to someone. Like you would like immediately jump to their defense if they were in trouble. You definitely wouldn't betray them. If you drink their blood on 3 successive nights, your dominator, the person who's giving you blood, is literally the most important thing in your world. You would like throw yourself in front of a train if you thought it like helped your dominator in any way. That's like the ultimate sort of bond on someone. They're almost like psychically enslaved to you by the power in the blood if they do that. But that has to be on 3 consecutive nights.
Okay, so I'll just knock them out for now.
Yep.
And then I will say to Franco that we should sweep the rest of the house. Can I use those goggles?
Yeah. You
Uh,
pick up these heat vision goggles. You put them on. You sort of look around. You know that sources of heat stand out in hues of red going through to yellow and white for like the hottest. Obviously, yourselves as vampires, you don't have any body heat. So when you look across at Franco, he basically is the same temperature as like his surrounding environment. Whereas obviously you
Okay.
know from your military background that if you looked at a human with these on, they would look brighter because you'd see their body heat.
Okay. If I look, does it go through the floors and all, so I can look up to other floors and see that there's no one in the building?
It doesn't really go through the floors. I mean, you might pick up if there was like a really sort of hot source of heat. I mean, like more than a person. Like I know if there's a
Okay.
fire on the floor above which was heating the floor, you would see that, but it doesn't like, really let you see through like solid objects in that
Okay.
manner.
Okay. So I'll pinch them in whatever gear your man was carrying too.
Yep.
Um, and then I guess how many floors are there in this building?
Only two. It's only a small
Two.
building.
So I guess I'll creep up the stairs and see if there's anybody upstairs.
Okay, not a problem. You creep upstairs, you look around the floor upstairs, and obviously to you can see that this sort of upper floor is obviously like where the tourists sleep. Like the windows have been light proofed, stuff like that. But obviously, as a lot of kindred do, you know, in order to like, preserve the masquerade and not leave sign, you don't like leave vampire stuff like lying around. It looks basically like a normal sort of like living room slash like bedroom with like very heavy curtains or blackout curtains and stuff like that. But beyond that, you don't really see anything unusual in there.
Okay, and if from the second floor
The place looks pretty clean, to be honest.
for a vampire, then, if I look out through the window across at where the light source is, can I see anything at the higher vantage point?
You peer out, and for a few moments you don't see anything. Then, as you look at the window in the building opposite to you, you think for a few moments you see like a faint glint, like light catching off something in the window opposite. And with your military experience, you're pretty sure you've just seen the light like reflecting off some sort of like gun scope.
Okay.
And you're like, if I wanted to, in the military days, if I wanted to like sniper someone, like you would go for a high vantage point that gave you a good field of vision.
Yeah, okay.
But obviously there's no lights in here. You're not giving out any light or anything like that, so
Okay.
you're pretty sure you've probably not been spotted. And obviously, even if someone was looking through like infrared goggles like you are, they probably wouldn't see you because you don't have any body heat.
Okay. And if I look through the goggles out the window at where I think the sniper is, can I see through that window whether there's one or more?
You can see there is a heat signature of some sort through the window. You can't see it fully because of the walls, etc. But you can see there's definitely someone in there. You can't tell how many people it is, though. It's either one person or like a group of people like clustered close together.
Okay.
Because sort of the resolution of these things gets like a bit sort of worse the further.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we'll go back downstairs to Franco. There's no one else here. We have this guy. We should bring him with us to find out more about these soldiers of the Lord and this Father Angelo. There's also another one across the road. That I think we should deal with. What do you think?
Really, I didn't seem very keen on going in there. Seemed that could be or Sonia seem to be an issue. Maybe we should let them into what we know before we make a decision.
Yeah.
As you're saying this, from the discarded walkie-talkie on the floor, you hear a Brother Carlo, report. Brother Carlo, are you there?
I'm going to pick up the radio and just sort of press the button a few times so it sounds like, you know, someone's trying to talk but not actually say anything. Just a few pauses and just
After a bit, you hear it.
let it go.
Brother Carlo, we're not. You let it go. Brother Carlo, we're not receiving your signal. Is there a fault on your equipment? Repeat. Come in, Brother Carlo.
And then I'd do it again as if I'm again trying to speak. Sort of give it a few seconds as if I sort of said a sentence and then let go.
Yeah, you hear a Brother Carlo, you appear to be experiencing some sort of mechanical fault. Report back to the chapel and we'll issue you with new equipment.
And then I'll just do a real short sort of like over sort of length message or click.
No problems.
But we'll take the radio with us because we might pick up some more
Yeah,
communication
and
that
when
may be useful.
yeah, we'll bring this guy. He might be useful too.
I'll put the volume down in case, you know, we're walking along and it starts
Yeah.
chatting or doing
Um,
something that might give us
So
away.
I will text Sonia and say it's all clear now. Do you want to come in and we can discuss what to do next?
I'll just text back the simple OMW. And I'll
Kids and then
nod
text talk.
towards Aurelio to start moving.
Okay.
Yeah, I will hover after Sonia.
Okay, so where are you guys planning on meeting up?
I guess outside the back door or just inside the back door of the Haven.
Okay, no problems. So yeah, so you meet in the alleyways round the back of the tourists' haven. Obviously, Franco and Hugo have got this now unconscious guy in, again, these sort of like pretty generic like black fatigues. They've also got this walkie-talkie that's turned down low.
Yeah, I'll explain that they think he's potentially got a fault with his walkie-talkie, so they might come investigating if you don't show up in whatever time period they deem as acceptable. And there's someone across the street, as you correctly expected. Some sort of priest or
Expect whoever is on the whoever is across the street is a practitioner of certain arts of note, and it would seem to me that tackling this particular problem might be a rather difficult or costly or both.
Is there anywhere nearby, John, that would give me a higher vantage of where they are?
Yeah, there's some like taller buildings. I mean, they may already have occupants, but there are taller buildings.
Because I'm also a sniper.
Indeed.
So I could, take this guy away. I could find a vantage point and try and get this guy through the window and see what sort of ants come out of where and have some idea what we're dealing with.
This is an inquisition. Then we need to work on securing our own haven.
going to say, do we just abandon this place? Well, it's not ours, but
Obviously, we need to know what they've done to the blood that caused.
yeah. Well, we have this guy who may be able to tell us when he comes round.
But now we've got to carry him back to the haven.
That's okay. We're close to the river, right? We can just get a taxi.
probably have to remove his fatigues or whatever that gives him away as a whatever he is.
Yeah.
And what do you want to do about the other one?
I really, really, really want to shoot him. Is the window open, John?
Yes, just like a crack. And you would know that that's like enough to like stick like a rifle out of. And
Okay. Is it enough to throw a grenade through?
oh yeah,
Right, now I have to work out what I got with my armor.
Let's not start a second World War.
I've got about to do the question. Like, was the window open? Yeah, enough to put a rifle. How about a grenade?
I don't get grenades at my armory. I just get rifles.
Hey, at least it's something to aim for in the future, man. Get some grenades.
True, and I have a few. Arnaldo owes me a favor. Right, so I guess
I mean, we've got to go and see if this is really what's
If-
his face.
If we
So-
want to take some time, I can try and see if we can scare this this person across the street to be on the move. It will take some time.
Time's against us. We've already taken out one. We've got one unconscious one, and it's not going to be long before they start asking questions of the person watching the street.
And indeed, as Sonia says that, from the other side of the building, presumably coming from the street in front of the haven, which you guys are round the back of, you hear a loud, stern and commanding voice ringing out into the night that says, "I know you're there, devils! Show yourself and be judged by the Lord." And that is where we're going to end the session for this evening. Thank you very much for playing, guys. I hope you enjoyed the session.
yeah. Thanks a million, John.
And obviously we'll sort out XP and all that shizzle in a bit. But for now, it just remains for me to say thanks to my wonderful players. Anyone who's watching this now or in the future, hopefully we'll catch you again.